Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds.
The truth shall set you free.
You can't handle the truth.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
No. I am your father.
Dead or alive, you are coming with me.
I don't want to brag, but I will. I was in the Avengers.
The Avengers?
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. What is that?
Hasta la vista, baby.
Hello and welcome back to the Creative Control Movie Podcast. I'm your host, Kenan, and thank you for joining us on today's episode. We've got a full team here. It's going to be a popular topic today, I can tell you. But back on the show, for a little bit of an absence, we have Neil. Welcome back. Right-hand man, as always, Sasha is here. We also have Lee, and for the longest time, Andreas graces us with his appearance for the show. So thank you very much for joining me, gentlemen. It's great to have you all.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is like the end game of
This is exactly. Is this Infinity War? We're all going to crumble at the end, or are we going to go dying out on our sword? So today it is about the MCU, and today we're here to discuss how to fix the MCU. I think the majority of us feel that something needs to change. We feel that it isn't where it used to be. So we're going to break it down a little bit and talk about like the high points, what's been happening in the last couple of years, how do we get to where we're at, does it need fixing, how do we fix it, and come up with our ideas. So if we had creative control over the MCU, get rid of Feige, and we step in, what would we do with it? Just before we head into our main show, please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. We really appreciate you joining us. And if you're listening to us on an audio podcast, make sure you hit that follow button on whichever podcast platform you listen to on, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Audible, Spotify, wherever you're at. We appreciate you listening to us. So the MCU, how do we get to where we're at? So obviously we had a culmination of movies, and just before the podcast started, Neil and I kind of touched on a couple of sort of like a run of films which led up to Infinity War. And if you have a look at Phase 3 of the MCU, it was really heading towards that peak. And we had Captain America: Civil War, followed by Doctor Strange, followed by Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Spider-Man: Homecoming, Thor: Ragnarok, Black Panther, and then Infinity War. So, great quality movies leading all the way up to Black Panther, of the introduction of Spider-Man into the MCU. It was riding on a high. And then we had Infinity War, which did over $2 billion at the worldwide box office. Absolutely massive. Then we had a couple of films in between. We had Ant-Man and the Wasp, which did $622 million. And then we had Captain Marvel, which some people forget about, did $1.1 billion. Did huge numbers, and whether that was just because it was leading into Endgame, or because maybe the tie-in, and maybe obviously it's the first time we're seeing that character as opposed to a sequel, for 1.1 billion, and then we had Endgame, 2.7 billion, one of the highest grossing movies of all time, and it just capped off a huge part of that MCU as a defining moment in that series. And then I was like, where do we go from here? So we had Spider-Man: Far From Home, 1.1 billion. Spider-Man back straight off the back of Endgame did huge numbers. But then obviously we had the pandemic. So things slowed down, things stopped coming out, schedules had to be moved around, difficulty in filming, rewrites, all this kind of stuff happened. It impacted a lot of movies, especially sort of like from Spider-Man No Way Home onwards. That a lot of the other movies were kind of in the can, just delayed release, but a lot of the other stuff got put back, and they had to film remotely and all these other kind of things they had to go through. But then obviously we had Black Widow, only 379 million at the box office, but we had sort of like that almost day and date release with Disney Plus, which there was Experiment, which obviously pissed off Scarlett Johansson, because as a producer she lost a lot of money on that and ended up suing Disney, but they ended up agreeing terms before it got to that. Then we had Shang-Chi, new character, 432 million at the box office. Then we had Eternals, 402. That really kind of divided opinion on that movie. It's one of those movies that gets a real split, and people who love it and hate it. Personally, I enjoyed it. Then we had No Way Home. Absolutely smashed it, 1.9 billion at the box office. Incredible hit. We had Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness, 955 million, just shy of that billion mark, but did really, really well at box office. Then we had Thor: Love and Thunder, 760 million. Again, a divisive movie. I think generally the kind of thought is it's average to low, but for me, Personally, it's the worst of the MCU movies. It's at the bottom of my rankings. Then we have Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. We know obviously we lost the incredible Chadwick Boseman. They had to rewrite that movie and to start again pretty much with most of the story. But that did 859 million. So again, another strong performance. Not as good as much as the original, but obviously much better than Thor: Love and Thunder. But still not as much as Doctor Strange. So was it because people didn't agree with the choices they did with that character? We can discuss that. Then we had Guardians of the Galaxy. We had Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. So that was the first of the new phase because Black Panther capped off the previous phase. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania introduced sort of like Kang to us, 476 million. Didn't perform that well at the box office. But then you had Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, 845 million. Another peak. We're like, oh, okay, maybe we're back in business. But then we have the Marvels. As of today, it's 114 million at the box office. It opened at $47 million in the US opening weekend, which is the lowest opening to an MCU movie ever. So that's where we're at. Obviously, since that last phase, since Endgame, we've obviously had all the Disney Plus series and all those shows. So the actual amount of content we've received is, absolutely huge. So kind of want to talk about like where we got to with this. So obviously we've reached that point where we are with the Marvels with the movies. What some of the high points? What some of the low points? What do we think has impacted to kind of get where we are today? Lee, I'll start with you because I'm not going to put you after Sasha and Neil.
I think. Sorry, what was the question again? Sorry, just to confirm.
What have you enjoyed up to this point? What are some of the highs? What are some of the lows? And what do you think of the MCU as it is currently?
Well, I think we're all in agreement, really. Like, the Infinity Saga was pretty much perfect. I mean, you obviously didn't have you had your sort of Thor. Was it Thor?
The Dark
Age, the Dark World, which wasn't brilliant, but it was still decent, and it still played a part in the character building and the storyline leading to obviously, it was all it's just this, just the whole story of the Infinity Saga and the way that they introduced the characters and the development of those characters, and you sort of got attached to them and you followed them. I mean, you had 10 years of, Tony Stark, Captain America. I grew up with those characters, and the way that they were portrayed and everything about them through that was just you couldn't have done it any better, really. So I think where we are now with it, it's a real struggle to everyone's expecting to keep that level and to see that again. And I don't know if we will, to be honest with you. I mean, now, like you said, the X-Men might be introduced. That could be potentially a savior because of the characters and the storylines. And again, all the characters that people are familiar with, they could they could do some really good stuff with that and possibly recreate, what they've done previously. But, it's the same with a lot of other films. When we on these podcasts, we talk about films, we're going back, talking about Indiana Jones and Star Wars, and all these films are like 40 years old, 30, 40 years old. Some things just can't be recreated, and the generation's changing as well. And I think like I've seen the Marvels twice, and Saturday, there wasn't a huge amount in the cinema. I think we walked in, there was like
less than 30 people. Saturday IMAX, yeah.
And I went on Monday evening, 6:00 Monday evening. There was 3 of us.
Wow.
So I think, and a lot of that has to do with streaming and possibly Disney Plus. It could be people like us, just sort of, some of us have given up on going to. What's the point of going to the, cinema because we're not enjoying what they're doing. And it could also be a combination of, people just waiting for Disney Plus, saying, it's going to come out in like a couple of months on Disney Plus. I'll just watch it at home.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's some really good points made. And that kind of touches on a little bit. I'll go to Andreas next because there's something he mentioned in the chat. He said after, talking about the Marvels, is like, he might just wait, So, Andreas, are you excited about the MCU anymore? Where was its peaks? Where was its low points? Where did it kind of drop off for you? If you feel that way.
Yeah, I do feel that way. the MCU, because you asked what was the highlights about it, the good points. So the MCU was very magical. They just had something that was very. It's hard to put in words. So it was just a feeling you got. So for me, it was like 2008. I took my son. He was probably 5 years old to see Iron Man. And from that movie, we went to every single MCU movie together as he grew older. And you guys met him at No Way Home, right?
That's
So
right,
imagine,
yeah.
I've been taking him since 5. So we went on this journey together. And when he was young, I used to love looking around at him. And as the Marvel credits would come up, like the wonder in his eyes, it was just incredible. And you know, apart from Dark, I'm actually a fan of Iron Man 2. I know it's weird, but I am. I haven't seen it for years, but I just always remember thinking, why does everyone rag on this film? The only one I didn't like, the only one was Thor Dark World. That was literally the only one I straight up didn't like. Every other one, I enjoyed it. It had that Marvel sort of magic, and they just continued it with up until Infinity War. And it was like, since then, apart from a few outliers, and those outliers will probably, I would say, are Spider-Man No Way Home and Guardians, because they kind of feel a little bit like the previous Infinity. They feel like they belong to the Infinity Saga, because because No Way Home was written by the two guys who wrote like Winter Soldier, Civil War, the two Avengers movies. So that makes it feel so incredible writing. I rewatched it the other day, and even with its sort of logic plot holes, you don't care because everything else is just so good. And I think
and it's the same director for all 3 films. So
Yeah,
Spider-Man
yeah.
had the same director for
Yeah,
all 3.
exactly.
Guardians,
Yeah.
same writer-director for all 3, and that makes a difference.
And then Guardians was part of Guardians. It was probably came out later than it should because of all the drama with James Gunn being sort of dropped and come back. So we'll exclude them. And I do like Shang-Chi as well, or at least I like 2/3 of it. In fact, I love 2/3 of it. But generally, it's like the magic disappeared. And I've been trying to pinpoint it. And for me, and this is just for me, it comes down to these things. The writers just weren't as good, number one. Number two, it was like all aimless and pointless. Like there's still a massive thing sticking out the ocean from Eternals, right? Like isn't there a, like that's never been mentioned. Shang-Chi was an incredible character. Maybe I didn't like the end of the film, but he was an incredible character. Where is that dude, man? He's so good. It's just like, so it's a combo of that. You haven't got that. It's building to something, or it's linking. Every link they've made, every promise they've made, every post credit has just been like, well, that's not really going nowhere. So everyone's got to the stage of it's not going nowhere, is it? And so yeah, it comes down to the lack of sort of direction. It comes down to the writing is, in some cases, it ranges from everything from meh to abysmal, literally abysmal. Whereas before it was the quips were at the right time. Everything was zippy. Everything moved, even where, you could tell it's like a Saturday morning cartoon. The way they wrote it, it just worked really well. You just didn't care. You had this fun and this magic that's gone. And I think a big part of it, and this is, I'm taking no side in this because I honestly don't care, is movie fandom has become very divided and political. It really has, and it's like you could see it. So you could see the social messaging being rammed into these movies. There needs to be more diversity, and I'm someone who's all about putting diversity. I'm good with that. I mean, but it has to be organic as well. And I think a lot of the messaging has now superseded the story and the writing. It gets to the point where there's a certain demographic, and I'm not part of that demographic, but we have to be honest, that is almost sort of sticking their finger up at Disney about this. Politics has unfortunately invaded movie fandom, and I hate the fact that it has, because we never used to even discuss these things. It didn't matter. There could be reviewers out there, for example, who truly didn't like the Marvels, but they'd be worried to write a negative review because they might be deemed as sexist. And there's a lot of that in there now. And again, I'm not saying I take any side in this. I'm just observing it. And it does have an impact on the box office, on everything, because the MCU before was just very, very inclusive. Like, everyone just had fun. There wasn't any, it just kind of like went for that 4 quadrant. It appealed to the widest majority. Yes, I do agree that, I celebrated when they brought in characters like Black Panther and Shang-Chi, and having, even the first Captain Marvel movie was a milestone, first massive female superhero movie. But it's just now got to a stage where it's like, come on. And I think that's had an impact on the journey so far. So I think those are the things: losing really valuable characters and just setting up characters that ain't really going nowhere, bad writing, and just generally the Marvels was the first MCU movie that since 2008 that I haven't gone to see it. I'm just going to wait to watch it on Disney Plus. And it makes me sad. It does make me sad.
No, that's true. You made some really great points there, mate. Absolutely. And I think on top of that, for me, everything you said about the MCU up until Endgame is absolutely true. I think Marvel Studios and Pixar are probably the 2 studios which have set themselves the highest bar in terms of quality consistently over a number of years. Pixar did it, then they had their little dip, but Marvel did, and now they're having a little dip. I think Pixar's trying to make a bit of a comeback in terms of its last releases. They're obviously revisiting old franchises, because what happens when the box office isn't going well? You go back to The Well, you go back to Toy Story, you go back to Inside Out, you go back to the things that made you money. But I think for me, the biggest negative that happened to the MCU was Disney Plus. I think that bringing that platform in and having to generate content, which Sasha's always mentioned this, there's TV shows, there's movies, and there's content, creating content for a platform to compete with Netflix. And they just went too big too soon.
Very good point.
How much of that has been impacted by COVID? Because obviously they had all these shows planned out, they had release dates for everything, and that messed a lot of things up. Writer strikes and actor strikes recently as well. But everything kind of got pushed back. They had to make changes, and things didn't come out in the way they used to. But I also think they made mistakes, or like Black Widow. She should have had a solo movie way before she did. That should have happened right after Civil War. That is when we should have got that movie, when the character's the height of the power, not after she's been killed off and then we revisit in flashbacks. So I think some of the choices that they've made there, but we had, I think when the shows first started, we did feel that there was some quality to them. I'm just going to bring them up because obviously the first one we had was WandaVision, and that generated that weekly anticipation of what is going to happen next, because obviously the style of the show, you kept watching it because you're like, oh, where is she, what's happening, how's this going to affect the bigger picture? And at the end of the series, although I enjoyed the series, you weren't really clued into how that was necessarily going to affect the bigger picture of the MCU. It wasn't really clear. Then we had
Falcon Winter Soldier,
which was decent. I think a lot of people liked it more than me. Loki season 1, which I thought was fantastic. And so you started to think, oh, okay, we are going to get some really quality shows. But then we started getting shows which are hit and miss. And, I think that because of Disney and Marvel and their platform, their shows obviously decided to play it safe. We were used to the gritty shows from Netflix, and I think everyone agrees that Daredevil, Punisher, Jessica Jones, fantastic series. Yes, okay, for, what we get with Daredevil, you get an Iron Fist. But overall, they're really well-developed characters. We spent great time with them. But then you had What If. Again, different, but they said it's part of the MCU, which is, again, they're trying to make it broader, trying to make it different, trying to expand on the universe. I personally really liked it. You had Hawkeye, which I thought was a good character to revisit in terms of allowing more screen time for that character. Moon Knight, I thought was a great series, but you have no idea how he fits into the MCU in the bigger picture. It's kind of its own thing. Then you have Miss Marvel. Again, that was a show that I enjoyed. And obviously that plays into the Marvels moving forward. I think, that character deserves a lot more screen time. She-Hulk was one that kind of split a lot of people. Was it the right thing to do? Was it the right way to bring the character? Should they have that fourth wall break? Was it the right thing for the MCU? Does it fit? Secret Invasion. I again, all the series I quite enjoyed, but there were parts of it that they all just felt like their own thing. There felt no connection, and unfortunately, what happens is because of the different things with writer strikes and delays in writing. For instance, the Marvels were supposed to come out before Secret Invasion, so the character of Nick Fury that we get in Secret Invasion is very different to the character we get in the Marvels. Because in the Marvels, he's all jokey, he's juvenile and stuff like that. But obviously, Secret Invasion, he's very, very different. And to go from one to the other, all the connections just aren't there anymore. So I think they've tried to do too much content too soon. We used to get 3 Marvel movies a year, but then we started getting 3 to 4 and then plus 2 or 3 shows, and it just was too much. And I think what's happened is Kevin Feige has just been stretched too thin and doesn't have the control over the product like he used to. When you're producing 3 movies a year, that is manageable. When you're trying to do that plus 4 shows and keep looking forward to the next phases and trying to plan those, it's too much. And I think, we've heard more from Kevin Feige in the recent couple of years where he hasn't actually particularly liked things in certain shows. And it's like that would never have happened before because he would have had that final say. And something I mentioned to Neil previously, we had directors and writers who were consistently involved with the characters. Same director for the 3 Spider-Man movies, James Gunn, the 3 Guardians movies, the Russo brothers, Winter Soldier, Civil War, 2 Avengers movies. Even Joss Whedon, we don't talk about much anymore, had Avengers and a follow-up Age of Ultron. Now you've got all these different directors putting in their own spins on everything, but they're not getting them into a room and saying, this is what we want to see, this is where it needs to go. And everything that's happened with the Kang dynasty, for me, the character seems weak. I don't care about the Kang dynasty.
Nobody cares about Kang.
No, Ant-Man and the Wasp, they beat him. And it's like, oh, okay, well, I thought he was going to be the next big bad. Okay, he has variants. Loki season 2, slight spoilers here. Obviously, it deals with Kang in that series. And
you didn't even need to have Kang in that series.
No, but he's featured in it quite a lot in terms of variants. Doesn't work out for him that well there. So it's like, well, why am I even threatened about the character? So we'll come on to more to the future, but I think, for me, Disney Plus has played a real big impact in it, and I think Kevin Feige has found it too difficult to manage all this stuff. That's just me. It could be I could be completely wrong. That's the kind of way I see it. And but we'll talk about it a little bit more in the future. Sasha, what's gone wrong with the MCU? How to get to where it got to?
Here we go.
Yeah, I think you summed that up there. I mean, Feige's overstretched. It's one of those things where you have your A-list players that you bring up to bat to play for your team, and when you run out of those players or they're gone or whatnot, you've got to replace them with your second best people or your third best people. And because there's so many TV shows and whatnot, you're getting your Z-list players, You're getting your Z-list players. You're getting the people you would never have given the interview in the room. And that's probably behind the scenes, And it's just oversaturation. 4 movies a year and maybe 1 TV show, because you had Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. going on and maybe something else. But that was the sweet spot. Yeah, I mean, that should have continued the status quo, but they went all out, and there's also a number of factors as well. Like there's the fact that you've got all these shows with new teams and new people, so lack of quality control from the top, because you've had to try and get try to get your number 2s to supervise everything, right? And you've ever been a general manager of a organization or something, you've got to make sure your management team are filtering down what you tell them to do. You know what I mean? It's the same thing like a job, right? And maybe certain managers might have different styles, or they may do it quite the same, etc. But do you see what I mean? It's
you have a mission statement or a direction. Yeah.
That's just it. And you can tell some of these managers have gone nuts and went a different direction, maybe. And that's kind of how I could lay it out, really, on what's going on there. And then obviously there's stuff at the top, because obviously you've got to understand they let Kevin Feige do whatever the fuck he wanted till Endgame. And I'll bring something fresh perspective kind of thing. All right. Even though I've been quite vocal, I don't like Phase 4. I actually think it was part of the plan, because here's the thing. The reason why I say it's part of the plan is because, look, if this was a normal studio, okay, they would have went for Iron Man 5 by now. Oh, RDJ's out, we'll recast him. We'll make him a female, or we'll race swap somebody. And sure, that stuff's been done in the MCU, but they've been done to characters and IPs that have been untested or unproven or nothing big to the general public, like Eternals, for example. Half of those characters aren't the same as their comic book counterparts. Okay, like Salma Hayek's a man in the comics and all kinds of stuff. But those characters, that super team, are so Z-list that, like, you know what I mean, to the general audience, that it's almost like it doesn't really matter. We can get away with that kind of thing. And that's fine. You know what I mean? They're trying something new. They're doing something fresh, you know. But if it was, say, you know, a different company, like, say, 20th Century Fox, they would do, you know, they do the darker take of Fantastic Four, or, you know what I mean, whatever. And then they'd look at it and go, this isn't the movie we wanted. And then they'd mess it up, the director's vision up halfway through, and give us some Frankenstein thing that was garbage. You know what I mean? Like, that's what would happen. So basically, what I'm trying to say is they had their fun till Endgame. Now it's the case of, okay, what's the company mandate? And it being Disney, they want diversity. Well, other than Marvel make stuff up completely, they're like, well, actually, we have a back catalogue of heroes that, you know, are in the comics, like Shang-Chi, like Carol Danvers, like, you know what I mean? And they've just brought them to the forefront. Fair enough to some comic book fans that read comics. These aren't exactly the most popular characters in comics because they failed in comics. They really did. So a lot of people haven't been looking forward to these characters. They're kind of like, well, why have they done that? Why have they done this? But you know what? These characters exist. What I was hoping from it was that, fair enough, they didn't work in the comics, but you know, film's a different medium. Maybe you could get them to work in this medium with better writers and stuff. You know what I mean? So to give it its own fair shot. And maybe Feige produced that. I'm saying maybes. I'm not saying this happened. Maybe Feige was like, let's give him a shot. Let's give She-Hulk a shot. Let's give Kamala Khan a shot. And see what sticks. You know what I mean? Because we've given these guys monies, like more monies they've ever had in their life. The Mouse House were living off Marvel greedily. You know what I mean? Like kings for 5 years. You know what I mean? 5 years. And we're talking billions, hundreds of billions. All right. And, you know, one move for a normal franchise, you have one major flop. That's bad. You have two major flops. You know, you're out the door. Marvel have been able to take the hit regardless. Because of their 23 movie home run. The thing is now, it's 5 years of dismissive stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they can't take those hits anymore.
They can't take as much risks now. Okay, but this is why you had Kang and Secret Wars, because while that's going on, they're dealing with, oh, we've got the X-Men back from Fox now. We've got all the majority of our IP back. So that's why we've got multiverse. You know, you think it's convenient that we got Kang the Conqueror? If you read Secret Wars, you have Kang before you have spoilers, if it is a spoiler, but I'm predicting the Beyonder is going to be in it, in that Secret Wars film, because the plot is the Beyonder. I'm not going to go into what the Beyonder is. He's the guy after Kang, and he's the guy that Doom steals powers from and literally goes full tilt bad. That is a big spoiler in the comics. So this Doctor Doom talk, well, it's before Secret Wars. That movie comes out, and it would make sense to bring Doom as the big bad. And I don't think that's a prediction. Huh?
That's a good point. What you just said about the multiverse, I completely forgot. So you know that a lot of normies, people that don't read comics, they hate this whole multiverse shit.
Yeah.
It feels like an excuse to be able to do anything.
This is another reason why people.
I think after Secret Wars, we're going to get more. Things are going to make a lot more sense, provided that's the way they go. But I think that was the plan all along, to give Disney what they want, do the company mandate, give Disney what they want, try and see what happens. If it doesn't sit, we can reset it, do a light reset later. I don't know. But that's just my 2 cents on that. Where did this all fall apart for me? Black Widow. You have one job. Seriously, make a decent action movie. They failed on making a decent, like an action movie. It was, oh God, my eyes.
Yeah, we know Sasha's distaste for Black Widow.
Go see the review at Creative Control. All right, and we'll
check out our previous podcast, Black Panther
episode. That's where it went wrong for me. That was it. That was it. And then, you had a few hits.
Rant.
Yeah, you had a few hits, but like seriously, Phase 4, the whole of it as a whole, toilet. Throw it in the toilet. Phase 5's with Quantumania, toilet. That's how I feel about the MCU now. Toilet.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to come on to Neil because we spoke about a couple of things before this started, and I really liked his take on the graphic novels and comics and particular episodes. And so I'm going to let him talk a little bit about that. The one thing else I want to mention is that when you were watching the first few phases of the MCU, those post-credit scenes you remember from each film, they led you to the bigger universe and what was to lie ahead. Even from that very first Avengers movie where they showed Thanos, most people didn't know who he was. I didn't necessarily recognize him straight off the bat because I wasn't, so familiar. It's been a long time since I've been into my comics. And there was always a thought to it. If I was to ask you now, what was the post-credit scene in any of these Phase 4 movies? I'm wondering whether you guys could tell me. So I'm just going to do a little bit of a test. Black Widow, what was the post-credit scene?
Yelena meeting with D. Fontaine.
Some woman goes up to Black Widow's sister and says, "Hey, you want to join this new gang?" That was never come back to ever since then.
So that kind of plays a little into Hawkeye, I think, when Yelena shows up in there.
I blanked that from my mind, Hawkeye.
Right, exactly. See, and because it didn't lead on to, it led on something maybe more in the Thunderbolts. Shang-Chi, what was the post-credit scene?
Him getting told that the rings are sending out a beacon to somebody where he meets Wong.
Who said that, Neil, again? Was it Captain Marvel?
You had Banner and Captain Marvel there.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
In what?
Banner and Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
No, it was Wong.
Yeah, no, Wong was there, but you had as a hologram,
hologram.
You had Banner, and but Banner was Bruce Banner, not Hulk or Professor Hulk. So I don't know where that fits in, but that didn't lead to anything. So that post-credit scene, Eternals post-credit scene,
Harry Styles.
I'm
talking because I remember them because
we just went through all this. Yeah, so Harry Styles showed up. Brother of Thanos or something. He was So that's led to nowhere.
That's what I'm saying.
And obviously, like you say, the Celestial or whatever it is at the end, sticking out of the ocean. How many movies and series have been? No one's ever spoken about that. Spider-Man: No Way Home post-credit scene.
Oh,
Venom.
Yeah.
That Tom Hardy and Venom.
A little black squid.
Potentially that might come onto Venom 3. or the fact that the symbiote is now in MCU. I think that's more the fact that the symbiote has been now left in the MCU.
But
So
has
hopefully
led
that'll
to
appear.
anything. And
Yeah,
that
it hasn't
hasn't
nothing
led-
yet.
Yeah.
No, that was nice. I like that one. It was a great explanation. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness post-credit scene.
His wife shows up.
Oh shit! What was that?
His wife.
Well, she's not his wife right now in
You
the
have
MCU, but in
Oh,
the comics,
Charlize Theron
Charlize
show up.
Theron. Yeah.
Yeah.
he
Yeah, and
got
he had
the
that
third-
weird
the-
bad
the eye.
CGI third eye, the really bad one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thor: Love and Thunder.
Oh,
I don't remember it.
Thor was making love to his hammer, like both his hammers. It was like a menage a hammer.
Menage a trois.
Oh no! Russell Crowe brings out Hercules to go fight Thor.
Yes, that's it.
Yes,
yeah.
there you go. Hercules. Okay. That movie's so bad, I tried to forget most of it. Black Panther didn't have one. Ant-Man and the Wasp. Quantumania.
Oh shit!
I can't remember.
Oh yeah.
All right, better question. We're gonna run it back because this is it will prove a point. What was the post-credit scene on Winter Soldier?
Oh, Winter Soldier was the clip from. No, wait, Winter Soldier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that was a long time ago, Neil.
I know it was a long time ago. That's why I asked that.
Winter Soldier.
Or easy way to run it back.
Oh no,
right?
no, wait! No, it was Spider-Man at the end with and Aunt May's like, "Oh, who gave you that black eye?" Oh, I got in a fight with a guy from Steve from Queens, and then he plays around with the spider light on the ceiling. When that was post credit. Yeah,
That was Civil War, wasn't it?
yeah, that's what he said.
That's Civil War. Oh, I thought
No,
you said
Oh,
Winter Soldier.
sorry, Winter Soldier. Okay, so Winter Soldier.
That was Sebastian Stan's character. He goes into the exhibition at the museum.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And wasn't there the mid one with the twins?
Yes. No, that was Age of Ultron. No,
Age of Ultron, was that?
you're
No,
right.
no, 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 no.
No, that was Winter Soldier. That was
Yeah, mid-credit scene, I think, wasn't it? Yeah.
yeah, that was with the twins. Yeah.
Right. So, and I think one of the points that Neil's trying to make it, they led to something. Yeah. Now, obviously, we don't know where that has led yet. And you had what was it? What else do we have? We had Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. That was the multiverse of Kangs. So, like, all the Kangs coming together in this big arena, and we're like, oh my god, there's thousands of them. And again, that hasn't led to anywhere. And like we've said, Kang in the MCU at the moment, it doesn't really matter. So we'll come on to that. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting that so many of the previous Marvel movies you can remember that post-credit scene you really look forward to normally led to something, and it really set up something for the future. You know, you had like Thor's hammer at the end of one. You know, we've had like the twins. Everything fed into the story, the narrative to show the connection. Right now, these are a bunch of movies that are just on their own, and we have no idea where it's headed, other than the fact that we have a movie called Avengers Kang Dynasty. If we didn't have that, we'd have no idea what is happening. Neil, how do we get to where we're at? What went wrong?
Several things went wrong. And before I start, I gotta say, firstly, I'm a lover of film, as you should know. I'm a lover of comic books. I even love Disney. I'm not ashamed to say it. I'm a grown man. I love Disney. I do
love Disney.
Right?
Yeah, Disney's giving us joy.
Yeah, right? Disney improved my childhood immensely.
I agree. I'm
Right?
with you on that, Neil.
So anything I say that's gonna sound negative, it's coming from a place of love.
Yeah.
Statement out the way. Disney is a problem in regards to the MCU, because here's where I'm running out. Phase 1, comic book fans. I don't care who you are. Phase 1 was just for comic book fans, right? If you weren't a comic book fan, if you did not know who Thor was, prior to seeing Chris Hemsworth dressed up as Thor, the movie wasn't for you. We got that first phase, comic book fans. Phase 2, comic book fans. And the new additions that had come off the strength of those first 5 films. Phase 3, pretty much the culmination of everything they've been building up for these last 2 phases, as well as, you know, saying, oh, you know, we got all these new fans here. This is just the culmination of everything we've done. Phase 4, moving forward, is you know what? We're for everybody, right? Andreas said it perfectly when he said, right, films have become more political. It's not just Marvel. It's not just Disney. It's not just Star Wars. It's not just anything it's every level of film, right? The amount of times now we're seeing films, there's a film called The 355, where it's like a bunch of, like a team of female spies. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you're making such a huge deal about it, that's where it becomes a problem. You just make it a film, and they're like, "Oh, cool! I enjoyed this film, or I didn't enjoy this film." Now it's think of the last Charlie's Angels films that came out, The Woman King that came out, right? I loved The Woman King as a film, but guess what? I didn't love. I didn't love it when Viola Davis was like, if you know, these aren't her words, I'm not quoting her verbatim, but it was essentially the phrase of, well, if you didn't like the film, you're probably racist. Right? You know, I think I can't remember her name. I think it may be Elizabeth Shue, maybe, was like, if you don't like Charlie's Angels, then you're misogynistic. I'm like, maybe I just didn't like it. Right? I said, I don't like films that have an all-male cast too. Right? There's films I ain't gonna like. But the thing is, when Black Panther 1 came out, I'm sorry, I may be like jumping from point to point, right? But when Black Panther 1 came out, Disney saw for themselves what happens when you invest in a character that isn't like 95% of your other characters. If you do it right, people are going to fall in love with it. And they saw, oh, how many black people just went full regalia to go and watch Black Panther 1, right? There was people who went to the cinema dressed up like characters from Coming to America, and people were like, what's the connection? And you know what, the best reply I heard to that was, they said Wakanda and Zamunda are bordering nations. Right? That's what they said, because they just loved it, right? It was a character, and because he was unapologetically black, he was from a part of Africa that's untouched by any Western, Eastern, any other culture. This is just pure black, and people loved it. And sorry to say, but even I just felt Disney was like, you know what? I think we can replicate that with everybody. Because you think the end of, well, not even the end of, right? But here's the thing. At the end of Endgame, right? Or when the opening credits of Endgame started, 95% of the MCU's main heroes were either white and or male. Since the end of Endgame, we have had a female Hulk, female Hawkeye, a black Captain America, a female Black Panther, a black and female Iron Man, a female Thor, a female king, not queen, of Asgard. And that is just re-established heroes. That is not including the new heroes of the Latino and LGBT hero, the Pakistani hero, and the Chinese hero. Now, there's no reason that all of these characters can't exist, especially because not one character that I named doesn't exist in a comic book prior to the film coming out. But the problems is, the Hulk, even if we're just saying, forget multiverse, we're just saying, you know what? The MCU is the only films that exist. You had Mark Ruffalo, or you had Edward Norton run a whole movie about Hulk. And he gave you rundown and lowdown, and you got to understand why he was the Hulk, why he didn't want to Hulk out, what the problems were, why he was working so hard to fix it, why he couldn't be with Betty. Then we got him in Avengers. We didn't see him again until Avengers. We see him in Avengers. He, off screen, had reached the lowest of low points. He tried to end it. Hulk was like, nah, son, we don't go out that way. Came back. He had his redemption arc. Essentially, he had his whole redemption arc in Avengers 1. Then he fell off the wagon for Age of Ultron. After falling off the wagon for Age of Ultron, he brought it back in Age of Ultron. Then we don't see him again until Thor Ragnarok. So we see this the highs and lows of Hulk through other people's films. But essentially, we see everything that was going on. You got to know. You're fully invested in Bruce Banner's struggle with being the Hulk. Yeah, all of that struggle was doing yoga on a beach in She-Hulk. It was just because she's a woman, because she has gone through the juggling this and this and this and this and this. She can be Hulk as in how. No problems, no qualms. Now, in the comic book, she's always been able to change at will. And she's always decided that she wants to just stay as She-Hulk. Fine, no problem. But you give me the reason that it's, because she's a lady, that gives her her ability. That comes off as poor writing. I hate to ever criticize writing. I absolutely hate to. I never want to criticize writer because I know how difficult it is to write, and I know how difficult it is to write something for someone else. But when you do stuff like that, you got to call a spade a spade. Then we've got female Hawkeye. She has an absolute pure. There's nothing wrong with Kate Bishop in the MCU, right?
No, I thought she was a good character.
There's nothing wrong with her. So she is cool. Captain America Sam Wilson, pretty much. There's nothing wrong with him being Captain America, other than the obvious, no super soldier serum or nothing. So, but guess what? We knew who he was from Winter Soldier. We've taken rides with all of these characters. Shuri,
I just want to mention about that for me, there's poor writing in that show because he's defending and he's against racism in that movie. It's a big part of it. But yeah, he's racist to the French guy. So there's some poor writing in there where you can stand up for one form of racism, but another nationality is fine. So it's like, come here and get your French baguette of French fries. One, French fries aren't even French. But he's racist towards the French guy. You know, he puts a stereotypical thing in there. And it's just like, you can't write the character both ways.
Yeah.
You know, that, again, is an evidence for me of poor writing.
But one thing I will say, and one thing I will hold dear to, is I would say that post Endgame, and I guess you could really say post Far From Home, even though Far From Home, I don't love it the way some of you guys do. I don't hate it, but I don't love it the way some of you guys do. Far From Home, I say Far From Home was the last time, other than say No Way Home, it was the last time where writing was probably at the forefront. Because after that, it was the jokes of today. And it was the...
Can I just... Sorry, Neil, because... So basically, because you've just given us loads to just think about. You've literally gone... There is no linear structure to your thought pattern right now. We've gone back into phase one, forward in phase two. So what
I'm trying to say is post Endgame.
Yeah.
The post Endgame, basically, everything became about diversity and content. It didn't become about characters. And here is here's your character. Here's your story, and here is where you need to be. right?
Which kind of goes on
Because
my
it-
point. of
Which
what I
go,
said.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was like,
Disney
Yeah,
decided
like-
they had to be the first to do each thing.
yeah,
The first like Chinese character, the first Muslim character, the first LGBT character. They've had to hit every single dynamic to make sure that they were inclusive, as opposed to filtering these characters potentially to 2 or 3 phases. Everything was a rush to get the inclusivity in there. So I think that's
You know-
part of Neil's point.
yeah. I mean, look, I give you two characters on their own. Jane becomes Thor in Love and Thunder, right?
Just like that. Don't forget. Just like
Right.
that. This
Now,
is
you remember their whole thing of it is Thor, now being the king of Asgard, puts a spell on his own hammer to protect Jane. Right? He puts a spell on the hammer so that it would come to Jane in her time of need. Those are not the words he says, but it's going to protect her. Okay, cool. So if it means that in the best way to protect her is to give her his powers, which kind of it mixes and blends with the original spell that Odin put on it, which says whoever holds this hammer, if they are worthy, they become Thor. Cool. Problem with that though. Why is that a side story in the whole film? The film should have been about her, right? You didn't need Christian Bale's character. You could have had a far more tame villain. But by having it be, because the story should have been Jane's progression, becoming Thor. And then the whole idea, because in the comics, when she becomes Thor, it's a big deal. And then you find out she's got cancer. And then you find out that her having cancer, it's every time she turns into Thor, when she turns back into Jane, the cancer's worse. It's aggressively, because what it does is when she becomes Thor, it purges every toxin from her system, which means it also purges all the chemotherapy from her system. So when she turns back into a human, the cancer is even more aggressive. So it means that she has to really contemplate, when am I gonna turn into Thor? It's a struggle for her to turn into Thor, because turning into Thor is killing her. It's a side story in a movie where Christian Bale, he scares a bunch of kids. He kills. His full name is Gore the God Butcher. He kills one god the whole movie, and he technically does it off screen because he without knowing what he's doing, stabs this god, right? And you don't even see it on screen. You see him from here, you see the god from here, you see the god's face twist up like, ooh, oh shit, and then we see the sword coming out of him. Ninja Turtles killed people better and Saturday morning cartoon. Right?
Yeah. Fair.
And then we got Riri Williams. Now in the comics, prime difference, and this is why I know, Andreas, when you said that because you didn't read these comics, your experience and your history with these characters is very different. So you don't really, it doesn't affect you as much when it's not comic accurate. But I'm the complete reverse, because I know, to me, if you're adapting something, you already have the brilliant baseline. So how are you going to fuck it up? You already have the baseline. Riri Williams, she becomes Ironheart because what she does is she's still a child genius, but every time Iron Man has a battle and he loses like a piece of armor, she scavenges it. And then she basically puts it together, and then she's reverse engineering it until she can build her own Iron Man suit. We find out she's a child genius because she built a machine that could find vibranium. For what? Because it was a class project. Namor, who is a brilliantly realized villain, wants to kill this character for a school project, a school project, right? And she goes, I remember Tony Stark was all with nothing. With nothing, he built his whole arc reactor and everything in a cave. He didn't have nothing. He had weapons. He was literally, here's a rocket, build me some things. And he built the first Iron Man suit, got home and used billions worth of dollars worth of technology to recreate Mark 1 or Mark 2 onwards. She, without, remember, because they're not saying she's got any connection to Tony Stark. So she built what she built out of used car parts.
Yeah.
Out of used car parts, she built her Ironheart suit, Mark 1. And it's okay, yeah, cool. She goes to Wakanda, she builds another one. She uses it. How was she able to do all of these things before she gets to Wakanda without the resources that Tony Stark had? She wasn't given a weapon. She wasn't given billions of dollars worth of technology to help cultivate and carve out these others, right? How did she solve the icing problem? Right?
Yeah, no, I get it.
All of this is 10 minutes at best in a movie about something totally different.
Yeah, I think a lot of what Marvel has and the writers, what they failed in is they've said, and then this happened. I watched it. Sasha mentioned this about he felt it was like this in the Marvels, and I can see his point to an extent. But the South Park writers, they did this presentation about how to write a story, and it's like it's like because and therefore, not and then. So I think Marvel's definitely done a lot of that. Like I said, Sasha, I don't know if you heard that. I give you credit for that because you mentioned it about the Marvels. And I think that's very much where they're at the moment. It's like this happens, then this happens, then this happens. Not why or because or this is the reason why. They just start throwing stuff and saying, this is what it is now. Just accept it. And just the detail isn't there anymore.
That's just it. I mean, that's the first thing they teach you in script writing class. Like literally. I did a script writing class, and they were like, "It's never and then, and then it's never that. That's an actual phrase, okay? Never do that, because when you write a script, when you write a story, everything that you present to the audience has cause and effect. Everything's there for a particular reason, and then that yeah. Anyway, I won't go into it anymore.
That's a big thing in Dude, Where's My Car?
And then okay, look, we talked about where the MCU got. Now we're going to talk about how we're going to fix it. So I'm just going to give a bit of a rundown to where we're at currently, because you guys might say, okay, yeah, I'm going to have this, I'm going to bin this, I'm not going to do this. So upcoming projects, we've obviously got so Loki season 2 is just finished, and there's some things you can take away from there. What If season 2, that's coming out in December. Not really connected, but it opens up the multiverse a little bit further, gets you thinking about characters in different ways. Then we've got X-Men 97. So it's a continuation of the 97 animated series. Whether this is going to tie into the MCU, I have no idea. Are they going to continue that? And that leads us then into where the X-Men enter the MCU. Who knows? Then we've got, in January, we've got Echo. So this is one of Marvel's first Spotlight features. So they've called this Marvel Spotlight, and these shows don't have a connection to the wider MCU. So you can watch it or not watch it and know that it's not going to affect what I need to know going forward as part of the bigger MCU. They're more filler stories focusing on particular characters. Now, if they brought that previously, is that something that Moon Knight would have been? Will he ever be connected? We don't know. But that's what they're calling him now moving forward. Then we've got Deadpool 3 in July 2024. So obviously Deadpool, part of the MCU now. Hugh Jackman's back as Wolverine. Other characters are returning as well. And we'll go into how you potentially use this film to move it forward. Funnily enough, Deadpool 3 is the only MCU release of 2024.
Thank God.
is crazy when you think about it. A lot of this is down to the writer strikes and so forth, but it's the only release, and we're normally getting 3 or 4 of these a year. But in also 2024, we're going to have Agatha Darkhold Diaries. That's going to be there as well. Agatha from WandaVision, and we're going to have Spider-Man Freshman Year. Spider-Man Freshman Year, another animated series. This is set before Homecoming, so we see how Spider-Man became Spider-Man in the MCU. We don't know who. I don't believe Tom Holland's coming back to voice it, but those are the characters, and so this is all set prior. So again, doesn't really have an impact going forward. February 2025, we have Captain America: Brave New World. So a 4th Captain America movie. Sam Wilson's Captain America. It's going to have Winter Soldier in it, or what's he called now? Fox? Is it Silver Fox?
White Wolf.
White Wolf. That's it. White Wolf. So he's going to be in there as well. Harrison Ford is there. We're expecting appear, and the Betty from the Incredible Hulk is coming there. Liv Tyler, she's coming back for that role. So General Ross is being played now, obviously, by Harrison Ford because the other actor passed. We're expecting maybe Hulk or Red Hulk to appear there. We don't know really what's going to happen there. Then we have Fantastic Four, May 2025. If this date still sticks, who knows? Lots of casting rumors going on about that at the moment. I'm going to touch on that in a minute. Then we have Thunderbolts, July 25, which is going to bring together Red Guardian and who else? We got Emo, we got Black Widow,
Yelena,
the new version of her. Who knows what they're going to do with that. Again, a movie that I'm not particularly excited for, but we'll have to wait and see. Then we got Blade, which has been pushed back, rewrites. We no idea what's happening there. The last time we heard of Blade was the end of post-credit scene, just the voice at the end of Eternals. That's how long we've been waiting for this. And I mean, he was announced 4 years ago or something. It's going to be Blade. So we've been waiting long for this. Then at the moment, we've got Avengers, the Kang Dynasty or Dynasty. We'll go into that. And then we've got Secret Wars, May 7th, 2027. Other things that haven't been given a release date yet, we've got the another Spider-Man movie. We've got Shang-Chi 2. We've got Armor Wars, which is going to be a series, I believe. Ironheart, which is supposed to be a series. Daredevil, Born Again. So they were into production of that, but the people saw it. Feige saw it and said, no, this is shit. We're cancelling it. So they're restarting that series again. We've got Wonder Man. We got the Wakanda series. Marvel Zombies. And Vision Quest. So these are all projects that are coming up with no release dates. In terms of where we are in terms of Marvel, so obviously Jonathan Majors, there's issues there in terms of off-screen. He's actually got his trial on the 29th of November, trial on sexual assault charges because his case wasn't dropped by the judge. So that's happening. Marvel got a lot riding on this. Will they make moves before that happens? Will they wait to see how that plays out before they decide what they're going to do? But, Jonathan Majors was built up in the MCU via Quantumania and Loki, especially season 2. He was supposed to be the big bad, and obviously going into Avengers, the Kang Dynasty or Dynasty. But the reports are circling now that Marvel Studios are moving away from the Kang storyline. And it actually can work. So, spoilers going into end of Loki season 2. So if you haven't watched it, I'll give you a few seconds to cover your ears or mute me. But at the end of Loki season 2, it's referred to by Mobius that the threat of Kang in the events of Quantumania and the heroes of the adjacent timeline 616 has just handled it. So that refers obviously to Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. The way season 2 left off, you could pretty much end Kang there if you wanted to. It's not that straightforward, but it can be. So from the end of Quantumania and Loki season 2, you pretty much, if you wanted to, wrap that up. Okay, spoilers ended. Lee and Sash, you're welcome back. It's fine. You can take your hands off your ears. And so that's where we're at. Now, the reports are also that the writer who also wrote Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, Jeff Loveness, he's been removed from Avengers Kang Dynasties. He's no longer involved in that. Also, the director, Destin Daniel Cretton, he's stepped away from Avengers Kang Dynasty to focus on other Marvel projects. He's actually doing the Marvel Studios Disney Plus series Wonder Man, which I just mentioned, which he's co-created. He's going to serve as a showrunner. Produce it. Andrew Guest is going to be the showrunner on that. Cretton is executive producing the series, and he's also going to direct the first 2 episodes. Wonder Man is also going to be one of the Marvel Spotlight pictures, so again, not part of the bigger MCU. But he's also going to be doing Shang-Chi Shang-Chi 2. So he's going to be involved in that, writing and directing that. So he's moving off Kang as well. So the Kang dynasty, is that something that's going to happen? Who knows? I have no idea. But
out of curiosity,
directing it.
With the Avengers, the Kang dynasty, who silly question, who are the Avengers now?
Very good question. Who your main lineup is? Yeah.
Because before we knew who the Avengers were, and then we've got this Avengers Kang Dynasty film, and I've got no idea who is actually part of the actual Avengers team.
Well, I don't. All right, Andreas, you might want to cover your ears there.
Cover my ears for what?
Because I'm about to say something that involves something that you ain't watched.
Marvels couldn't give a fuck, mate.
So, well, everybody else has seen the Marvels, right?
Go for your life.
The thing with that is there's more likely going to be several different teams of Avengers. There will be a young Avengers.
Terrible.
There will be. Oh, by the way, if you're watching this and this is technically a spoiler for you, tough shit. All right, right. I was on my honeymoon and missed a bunch of stuff, and still came back and had to.
By the way, congratulations, sir.
Oh, thank you, sir. Right. But I'm saying, right. So if you ain't caught up now, that's on you, right? Yeah. So at the end of the Marvels, you have Kamala Khan, quote unquote, recruiting the young Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
And then what it'll probably be is, because don't forget, even though they don't really talk about it, the Sokovia Accords are still a thing. So any major hero is still like registered. So when they say the Avengers, you've got Sam Wilson, Captain America, you've got Bucky Barnes, the Thunderbolts technically could be considered Avengers, right? You'll have Captain Marvel. So in the event that, you know, they anybody connected to that. So you'll have a bunch of heroes. Don't forget, Spider-Man still exists. No one knows who he is. He just still exists. So there are multiple people who could still turn up between now and then.
But I think this is the point, is that what we've all been making is that you know that because you know your comic books, you know the characters, you know everything. But for me, like, I don't know the comics, and I don't know.
Ask a general audience,
as a general audience, way back when the first Avengers came out, I knew who they were because we'd had 3 Iron Man films, we'd had 3 Thor films, we'd had 3. You know, there was all these other films building up together. I knew exactly where we was and who was going to be in that film and everything about it, pretty much. But now it's like, I don't know.
Does it include Moon Knight? Does it include Miss Marvel? Does it, include all these different people? You just don't know.
Well, I think, even though we've already discussed it at length, I think that goes back to what we was discussing. Every post-credit of the MCU film in phase 1 led to the next film. Now you've got like post-credit scenes in a TV show that are coming to fruition in a film, and if you didn't watch the show, you got no idea where it's come from.
Which alienates people, by the way.
Which absolutely alienates people. You've got post-credit scenes coming in a film that comes out in 2020 that has no repercussions until 2022 or 2023, and you're like, what the fuck? How'd you get from here to here?
Neil, can I ask a question? You know that what Lee said, where me and Lee, the avenue we come from, i.e., like, we don't really know much about the comics.
Yeah.
You know that the reason the MCU were as big as they were is because I'd say probably 80 to 90% of their movie-going people were essentially me and the Lees. Like,
I disagree, because as I said phase 1 was for comic book fans.
No,
it just so happens that in the ability of making films, they made these characters accessible. But
I think they made them comic accurate, but I wouldn't say they made it necessarily for the fans. But I would say they made them more comic accurate to make sure they appease the fans. If it was just fans,
they wouldn't be.
Your fandom only makes up about 4 to 5% of the general audience for any movie, and that's
just look at comic book sales.
That's proven.
I think I'm either not explaining myself as clearly as I think I am, or we're missing.
You meant they meant to try to be more comic accurate with those first couple of films.
These films
Yeah,
are more
that's
comic
okay.
accurate.
Yeah, I agree with
Yeah,
you. That I 100% agree.
Absolutely. So
Yeah,
look, we'll go forward again to so Fantastic Four. They're talking about casting. So the latest casting rumors is that it's a deal's far from done, but they've reported that Pedro Pascal is in talks to play Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic. Obviously, he's got full card. He's got Gladiator 2. He's got The Last of Us 2. He's got Zack Gregor's Weapons to film. He's got a lot on his plate, but you know it's Disney. They could make it happen if they wanted to. Invisible Woman, Sue Storm, it's Vanessa Kirby from Mission Impossible franchise, The Crown, Young Princess Margaret. She's going to be in the up-and-coming Napoleon movie, Ridley Scott. You know, I'm sound with that. Human Torch, Johnny Storm. They're talking about Joseph Quinn, Eddie Munson in Stranger Things 4. And The Thing, Ben Grimm, Eben Moss, Baccarat. Cousin. I love that casting. You know, Sasha made a good point. He was in the Punisher series on Netflix. But you know, they can reuse characters, whether that's actually going to be a continuation because that's the Netflix world. And same with the Netflix series, it was kind of part of the MCU because they referred to in Daredevil about the incident in New York and stuff like that. But then it quickly moved away from necessarily being part of the MCU because it was too gritty, too dark. And I think the Daredevil we saw in Spider-Man is a variant, you know, it's not that Netflix one. But anyway, so
actually,
some of the other things.
Sorry, before you jump on, I don't think it really matters about casting people twice. The MCU has done that like several times.
Yeah, they've done it a few times. Yeah, especially when they're not in that big a role. So some reports that have come out is that apparently Marvel have recognized that the output has to be reduced. You know, one is cost.
Absolutely.
And it's been reported that the target output has been reduced from 4 shows and 4 movies a year to 2 shows and 3 movies a year. That definitely seems like the way to go. You know, Sasha mentioned it earlier. 3 movies a year.
2 shows and 3 movies. Yeah, right.
Because 3 movies is 3 movies. They were doing that, and that was a sweet spot. To add 2 shows into there, I don't think is overstretching it. 4 shows and 4 movies, that's too much content. But we'll see what happens. So that's apparently where they're headed moving forward. Then basically some little bit more in terms of the Fantastic Four. I won't go into too much detail, but they have talked about casting. They have talked about the fact that they've maybe met with Adam Driver and even Jake Gyllenhaal about Mr. Fantastic, but maybe the money is too high. So costs is definitely a thing for Marvel now, and especially with the new actors contracts and stuff like that. You know, that'll make a big difference to those. There's talks about Javier Bardem playing Galactus. That's potentially a rumor as well. Apparently it was Antonio Banderas, but I definitely prefer Bardem. I think that is the way to go. So there's lots of things going on. But anyway, knowing all the things that are coming out, knowing where we are with the characters.
This is the juicy part.
Again, this is spoilers for the end of the Marvels, if you haven't seen it. At the end of the mid credit scene, there's no end credit scene. The mid credit scene is we have Monica Rambeau go into another universe, and we see Beast. So we see Beast of the X-Men. It's Kelsey Grammer. It's not in makeup, it's CG, so we don't know whether it's the same universe as the original X-Men, but I think we're going to be presuming that it is. Because Kelsey Grammer in makeup these days isn't going to look like Kelsey Grammer from like 15 years ago. So we've obviously got the X-Men in play. We've got Fantastic Four in play. So Lee, what would you do with the MCU going forward? How would you fix it? So is the limiting the number of films and shows the right thing? Where would you like these characters to appear, and how quickly would you like to appear?
I think quality over quantity for sure. So I think take it back to when it was, you know, doing really well, making money and being successful and developing characters that people loved and was invested in. So I was thinking, even if they could do something slightly different with just releasing another Fantastic Four movie. I mean, we've had a couple of Fantastic Four movies now. It'd be nice maybe if they introduced the Fantastic Four in a different way and maybe focusing on maybe the characters individually or something like that. I don't know. I know obviously it happened when they were together, I believe. So it's very difficult, obviously, to do something different when they gain all their powers together. Yeah, they have to kind of be together. But so I don't know if there's any way of introducing those characters maybe within the multiverse, they could visit the characters individually. It could be that they're maybe apart and then they come back together, or it would be nice to see something different than just another Fantastic Four movie. And let's hope that they get it right this time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fair enough. What about the X-Men? How would you like to see the X-Men introduced? Do you want to see any of the original cast back, or do you just want a fresh reboot?
I mean, I think maybe a fresh reboot, to be honest with you. We keep referring back to previous cast, and I'd maybe like to see a reboot, do something fresh and new that you can sort of move forward with. You could maybe bring in the originals, as like you say, with the multiverse. You could probably bring in a few cameos to try and connect the dots from previous movies. But no, I'd probably go with a fresh cast and have a new take on it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think the way forward is to basically wrap up this mess that has gone on and to create a fresh starting point. And I think for me, that is Secret Wars. I think that you bring everything together full circle. So I think, you have the original cast come back. You have Robert Downey Jr., you have Captain America. We've got time travel, so they don't have to be alternate versions of them. So a threat is that big that they have to go back in time and pluck these characters back out of the timeline to help them in the future. Bring Toby and Garfield, bring them in. They've already been established in No Way Home. Bring them in for the final battle. Bring in the X-Men. Bring in Hugh Jackman. And I would do this via Deadpool 3. Do a bit of cleaning house in there. Bring back all the original cast. And just have it a culmination of every single thing we've seen Marvel. Bring Wesley Snipes back. I want to see them all. At this point, I was very much against having Toby and Andrew Garfield coming back. I said it on the podcast years ago. It happened and I loved it. And I was like, you know what? Just give it to me all now. Just give everything. Make every X-Men movie, every Blade movie, bring it all in. Just give it all in Secret Wars. Let it go absolutely batshit crazy, and then close the multiverse and just shut it down and just tie up all those ends. And then you can have your rebooted versions. Everyone goes back to their place in time. You have your new Avengers moving forward. And I would have X-Men from a different timeline. So the X-Men that we see at the end of Marvels, that is the original X-Men. Whether we have Avengers versus X-Men, whether you get rid of Kang Dynasty and bring in the X-Men, have Avengers versus X-Men. So you can have the new X-Men come in on the current title, Earth 616, and then bring in the old school. So you actually have two versions of the X-Men at the same time. Why the hell not? Because at this point, they need to do something which is going to get audiences excited again. There's like Sash said, nothing excites you coming out anymore. It's just, you feel it's going to be maybe okay, but what you're doing is you're just hoping it's not going to be bad. And that's not where you need to be. They need to generate the excitement. And it's just like, let's go all out, because we need to draw a line in the sand, because at the moment, everything's so disjointed that nobody's enjoying it anymore, because they keep watching product after product after product and they don't know where it's going. So yeah, that's kind of what I would do.
I would like to see Garfield and Maguire finish their stories as well, or have another shot.
Absolutely, Spider-Man 4. Get Rami back. Have Spider-Man 4. Let him close his franchise out. Hell, give him another 3 movies before Secret Wars. Let him have his movies. Have Andrew Garfield have his movie. Let him share the universe with Venom and Morbius and all those fucking shit movies, and let him spank them, get rid of them, and to clean up that universe, get rid of all those characters. So there's lots you can do. But yeah, that's just my thoughts anyway. So I would just go balls to the walls. Andreas, you're shaking your head. What do you want to do? How would you fix the MCU?
You can see my head shaking.
Andreas, I noticed that alcohol came out when you was listening to the new idea.
Hell yeah! I've got this. I had to sort of steady my nerves, because let me tell you a few things that I never, ever want to hear again. One word is time travel. Another word is multiverse. Another word, Another thing is bring back old casts. Like, no. It's all see that whole reel that you were listing off, all those shows, all those movies, all that culmination of Secret War. Scrap it, burn it, fry it all in the bin. Now's the time. You've stopped. You've got nothing for next year. Brilliant. Bring in Deadpool. We all want Deadpool 3. He doesn't want.
So Deadpool kills the MCU and just have him wipe it out.
No. I don't even care. I don't even want to mention it. I think putting the MCU in his movie is going to ruin his movie at this point. Just whatever they do, I have a fun romp. I'm happy for them because I know in that movie, whatever they're going to do is just going to be jokes. It's going to be fun. I'm all up for that movie, and then just stop. Take a year, breathe. See all these little side characters. See them all. They're useless. They're all pointless. They add to nothing. No one gives a shit. And I'm sorry, as much as I loved all the old characters, they had their beautiful arcs. They had their moment. If you try and bring them in, it's just a desperation play. That's all. If I see Downey Jr. again, it's a desperation play. They've had their time and they were amazing. You just come out swinging, completely detached. You don't have to think about, oh, this happened there. No. It's a complete reboot. You come out strong you come out strong with X-Men. No ties, because now it's all this interweave spaghetti. It's all linked. It's all like, where are we? Who are we? What's going on with this person? What's the end credit? The person sticking out of the ocean. This Shang-Chi, what's he doing? What's the multiverse here? What time travel? Where are we? It's got itself in a right just mess. Let it go.
If you tried to do it previously on the MCU, that would be messy.
Look, as long as you get Michael Pena,
that's exactly right.
Run it, I promise you, no one will be upset.
That would be funny.
Believe that.
Okay, so just start with X-Men. I want a whole new cast and Fantastic Four. You've got two big IPs there. People know them. You know, not just your comic book readers know them. People know about these people. Fantastic Four has never been sort of like done justice on the big screen, so it's a good place to start. And you could just, this is our universe. We have a world where X-Men mutants exist, Fantastic Four, and the only other person I'd have is Spider-Man still in it. I'd like Tom Holland, and yes, I know I've said reboot and everything, but with Tom Holland, it's a little bit different. One, because Spider-Man is major IP right there. People know him. People love him. Tom Holland's excellent. And he's actually, because it's that whole thing where no one knows who he is. So you could just, you don't even have to explain it. He's just there. Spider-Man in the midst of all these beautiful X-Men, the Fantastic Four, the first family. And then the other thing I would have is a Miles Morales live action. Because I think the combo of because he's big at the moment. People love him. So to have a live action version of him sort of with Tom Holland will be beautiful. And the other guy that I'd put in there and I'd completely recast because, well, they've shitted on the Hulk is the Hulk. Again, because he's a big hitter. People love him. And for me, that is the new foundation. It's all in one dimension. That's it. Just one real word, because I want that feeling of this is our normal mundane world and these are our fantastical people in it.
These are our heroes.
Because right now, I don't know who's a hero. Everyone's a hero. And they're all big IPs. And then after you build your foundation, you can start introducing, if you want a new Iron Man or a new sort of like digging deeper into the pantheon of beautiful MCU characters. That would be me. That's what I'll do.
Would you have Kevin Feige back, or would you want somebody else in charge?
Listen, Feige is the most successful producer in the whole of history, the whole of Hollywood history. There's no doubt he is. There isn't. It's not like an opinion. It's just no other studio has achieved the box office that he has. It's just fact. Neil, I know you might not think so, but.
No, I'm just in my head. I'm trying to because I'm like Spielberg is a pretty big producer. You know what I'm saying?
But no,
he's not hands-on the same way.
No, but it's we're talking box office. He is. If you looked it up now, it's him. Would I have him back? Well, he's capable of the job. I just think he's been stretched thin, and I don't know what's happened. But if there's another person who could do it, why not?
Well, I think that Kevin Feige, I think the issue is there is no one better suited to be in charge of Marvel than Kevin Feige. Because Kevin Feige has been doing Kevin Feige since before Marvel. When there was, remember, The reason Hugh Jackman, the Wolverine cut,
I know.
that's Kevin Feige. Kevin
Mm-hmm.
Feige's office covered in comic books. The cast of the X-Men leaving where they were to go to his office to read comic books on their characters to go back because Bryan Singer was like, "You're not watching comic. You're not reading comic books on my set. No comic books on my set."
Yeah. I get,
I'm just
I get
saying.
that. But I've got no problem. If it's him, it's him. But what I'm saying is, surely there might be someone else now. There might be a new Kevin Feige out there. I don't know. I'm not sure. That's
we'll all apply. We'll all apply for the job. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, but that's what I would do. And I know it will never happen. But
hey, this is about if you had creative control. You would just draw a line and move on. All right, cool. Sasha, Neil, who wants to go first?
I don't mind going first. If it's cool with that.
Cool. Go, Neil.
All right. So first thing I do is we're not having 3 films and 2 shows a year. We're having a maximum of 3 products a year. Period.
Okay.
It might be 2 films and a show. It might be 2 shows and a film. It might be 3 shows. It might be 3 films. We're not doing all the. You don't need the MCU every 3 months.
I agree. 3 products a year, I'd be happy with. Absolutely.
That's one thing. Secondly, the whole thing of slates, gone. Goodbye. I'm not telling you that in 5 years there's going to be Kang Dynasty and Street and Secret Wars and that. No. Guess what? You know when you're going to find out? Why? When the trailer comes out. Right?
I agree.
Because I'm like, think about it. You watching Secret Wars, right? We know that Secret Wars is the last Avengers film that we know has been stamped and said this film is coming out. I now know pretty much who is going to be in it, who's going to be dead, who's going to be alive, just off the strength of I'm a comic book fan. I also know probably who'll be in it casting wise because I have the power of the internet at my disposal, right? It's too easy to figure out shit. The good old days where it was like you saw the post-credit scene and you're like, ooh, that's Thor's hammer. And then the full film comes out. You're like, okay, wow, yeah, I like this. Bring some mystery back to it, right?
Mystique, bring some mystique back. Yeah, absolutely. Don't announce anything more than a year in advance. Absolutely.
Yeah, right? So trim all of that back. Now, I'm going to be blunt. Everything you list off, all of them films and shows, some of that stuff is gone. What if?
Gone.
What if stays? Because I'm like, I don't really mind about What If, right? It's just it's a nice little animated show. It's in its own realm. Cool.
Yeah.
X-Men 97, that stays. That I will directly link that show to the Marvels because Photon will be a character in that show. I don't care that everything that they had planned, cool. Keep your plans. Add her into it. Don't care how you do it. Add her into it. Echo, fine. They just said it's a standalone show. It's not standing alone. You're gonna you will have tiny little seeds that will connect it to anybody's street level.
Yeah,
right.
Kingpin
if
level.
They fly, they ain't in it. If they can shoot energy beams or blast out of their hands or face or eyes or asshole or whatever, they're not in it. Right? If you're a Daredevil, if you're a Luke Cage, if you're a Jessica Jones, any Defenders levels, if you're there, you're it. You might have a link. I mean you're in it.
Superhuman, yes, but the like you say, the extra, like fantastical. No,
like if you could stop a building falling by yourself, nah, you ain't the one.
Yeah.
Right. Deadpool 3 stays as it is. I wouldn't change a thing. Captain America. I don't know what the storyline is, but I will rip apart the whole storyline and I will say, yes, Captain America and the Thunderbolts, combine them into one movie.
Yeah.
Right?
Apparently there's been test screenings for Captain America and they were really bad. And apparently they're now working on the script to do major rewrites and reshoots. Apparently it's
there you
very
go. I
poorly
think
received.
Join them. I don't need a whole Thunderbolts movie by themselves, right? Merge the two of them together. Because all of the villains in the Thunderbolts are villains we've seen in other films, right? Cool. So you got no reason to have to give them their whole old movie by themselves, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yelena, all right, she's somebody we need to somewhat care about. Winter Soldier or White Wolf, he's someone we kind of need to care about. Red Guardian, people will care about him because it's David Harbour and he's funny as hell and he's great. He's, he's charming and lovable, right?
Yeah.
Everybody else, now I don't care about you. You're in the Captain America movie, you might die. Because the Thunderbolts to me is just looking like Suicide Squad 2.0.
Yeah.
Right.
I
So
agree.
I don't really care about
I'd get rid of Agatha. Don't need that show.
Yeah, Agatha, she's gone. There is no Agatha, right? But there's
and I don't think we need Spider-Man freshman year. I don't want to know what happened to Tom Holland's Spider-Man before. I don't want to see an Uncle Ben story. Bennett,
see, I'm saying all of these things that I said that I was gone. So, right, Agatha, that's gone. Do you know why one of the reasons it's gone? The Darkhold was destroyed at the end of Doctor Strange 2. So for what reason do I really need this whole TV show about this witch called Darkhold Diaries?
No, that sounds pathetic.
It don't exist no more.
That's gone through about 4 different title changes. Covenant of Chaos and all sorts. Yeah.
So that gone. As I said, Thunderbolts is now merged with Captain America, so that would be that. What else did we get rid of?
Blade. Would you recast?
Absolutely. Blade, whole revamp. But here's what I would do. Blade would be a movie on its own. Blade is the main character. He's not fourth string with a bunch of other characters. Blade is your main character. Maybe it's not an origin tale, but then again, Blade 1 wasn't really an origin tale. It told you his origin, but
in recaps,
yeah. So we might recap who Blade is. Maybe in the realm of the MCU, we tell you who Blade is. But other than that, we don't need an origin. He's a vampire.
Does Blade belong
hunter.
in the MCU at that higher level, or should Blade be part of Daredevil, Punisher, Echo level?
Well,
is he not more street level?
For my take, Blade. So you have your street level defenders, so to speak. You've got your big level Avengers, so to speak, and then you would also have the Marvel Knights, because you need your dark. We got witches and wizards and vampires, right? That's not Captain America's field. He don't need to go running in there to deal with that, right? So I say you have your occult Avengers. So that's why I say you would have Blade, but also, as well as having Blade, I would have a Ghost Rider movie would be involved in there, right?
Okay.
A Ghost Rider movie would come up, and I would do that because I would set up the Marvel Knights. So it'd be Doctor Strange, who already exists. Blade, you add him. Ghost Rider, you add him. Then maybe you make Agatha the villain in that. Because the Darkhold's gone, she's had to go look for another source of evil. Maybe she's gone and made a little deal with Mephisto.
With Dracula. Yeah.
Right? Maybe Dracula or Mephisto. The thing is, I know that they wouldn't put Mephisto in there because it would cause a lot of financial friction, and I know that they wouldn't be able to release the movie in China if they had Mephisto in there. But this is me having creative control. I ain't relying on the Chinese dollar. So he's in it.
I'll take the hit. Yep.
Yeah. So these movies will be coming out. Armor Wars and Ironheart. You know what? I'd probably say I'd keep both, but one or both of them are movies.
Okay.
They're not TV shows, right? Or like enough TV shows, because at the end of the day, if you don't have Disney Plus, you're not legally watching these shows, right? We're going to go on and say that everybody obeys the rules and everybody obeys the laws. So if you don't have Disney Plus, you don't watch these shows. You're missing key bits of information. The fact that
Armor Wars was going to be a series, but it is actually now a movie.
Yeah, perfect.
Armor Wars, what? Oh, okay, so
Armor Wars was going to be a series, like with code with.
Okay,
Cody.
yeah, I get it. So I forgot to say in my thing of how to fix it, there'll be no Disney Plus shows.
There'll be no what?
Okay, no Disney Plus shows. Okay. Okay.
See, that's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea at all. Because
that's just my opinion. It's just
you think about it. The Daredevil show, right? You're right, Andreas. Because think the Daredevil show. Daredevil Born Again is basically Disney's version of Daredevil, right? Cool. You know, I've actually read recently that the reason it's called Daredevil Born Again is so it's like a tax write-off for Disney, so that they don't have to pay everyone a 4th season rate.
Right.
Because like you have basically like you get 4 seasons of a show, then you have to start paying people dental, and you have to start paying them like
paying
other
extra monies,
paying them extra monies. So by doing little tiny things, when they get to like the 4th season, they change things, so they'll like change the name a little bit, and they like, listed all the shows that they did this with. It was some shady practices. Right?
Interesting, yeah.
But things like that, you are never going to compete. You're never going to compete with Netflix's Daredevil. If you're not trying to compete with Netflix's Daredevil, perfect, do your thing. If you are, however, trying to run off the strength of that show to then push your snake oil, it ain't gonna work. And all you're gonna do is sour people to that.
Yeah.
Also, at some point in time, certain characters need to die and never come back.
Who'd you kill off?
Bruce Banner.
Okay.
Almost everyone right now at this moment.
No, but you know what? But the thing is, where I say you kill off certain people and don't bring them back, Bruce Banner would die at the end of an epic trilogy arc where he becomes Maestro. He becomes that big bad villain of the Hulk, Maestro. He tries to either destroy or take over the world. Almost succeeds, dies in the end of it, and then that's him. That's Bruce Banner done.
Okay. X-Men and Fantastic Four. Would you bring them in at this point? How quickly do you bring them in?
You know what? Because Secret Wars is a thing, and that would still be a thing for me. I would still have it. I don't mind having. I guess you could. How do I put it? It'd be the original cast. But they would be playing the X-Men 97 variants of those characters.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Right.
Yeah,
I would hope that the end of the Marvels, that where we were was basically the X-Men 97 universe, and it was just a live action version of it.
Okay.
Because
the
way Beast is dressed is more in line with that show than it is the
movies,
X-Men films. I would just hope
I can see that.
And
I would say probably that he's gone through the next mutation. So for me, I would keep it as the Fox universe, but obviously his mutations increased, so therefore he is fully formed Beast, where the last one he looked a little bit more human than Beast.
Well, no, because I'm thinking about this Kelsey Grammer, right? Kelsey Grammer's Beast. He's blue. He's furry. He's there is no.
But that's how I'd move it from his fact that he was in makeup and as opposed to a fully CG character. That's what I'm saying. It's next mutation kind of thing. But yeah. Okay, Fantastic Four. Do they gain their powers and their new characters, or are they characters that have used? Because when I was going to bring Fantastic Four in, I was going to set it in the 1960s space race, and they're around. They actually created their own thing for either Baxter Foundation. They blast off into space. They get sucked into a wormhole, and now they get released into modern day. So they've had their powers, and I would have done that way. You can have a 1960s type of vibe film, which might be quite funky, and that's why they haven't been around for so long. But how do you explain where Reed Richards has been otherwise? Because we see him in Doctor Strange, and now the Fantastic Four just turn up and say, "Yeah, we've just missed all the Endgame stuff, and now we're showing up."
I just have it. I run the same thing for them that I run for the X-Men. You're in a different universe. You're a different part of the multiverse. Once I know it's before Secret Wars. It ain't no more. Once Secret Wars is done, because this Secret Wars film is probably based on the second Secret Wars comic, not the first. So I run it like that. All these other universes all wind up converging, and at the end of it, everything explodes. We have one universe, and that one universe has pretty much everyone in it. Some people don't make it, some people do. And in order to do
that way, you can combine all the realities and cherry pick who you want to play every character.
Cherry pick who you need to pick, and then anyone who wasn't in the 616 prior to Secret Wars, now it's their whole existence is shifted. Their whole existence changed because you're not in your world. You have to adapt to new things that are all different, right? Because that could lead into Avengers versus X-Men, because you've got X-Men who didn't exist, or mutants who didn't exist in the 616 prior to this event. Now there's millions of them that exist in the world.
Yeah.
So they're trying to find a place that they could be by themselves. Maybe it's Krakoa, maybe it's Utopia, maybe it's Asteroid M, wherever it needs to be. But maybe the US government, maybe the world governments are just like, nah, we need to, Sokovia Accord you lot, because, and they're like, no, I was born with this. This ain't no secret power. I didn't get bit by a spider. I didn't fall in, have no gamma explosion. I was born this way. But you got powers, mate. So I want to register you.
Yeah,
that could lead very much.
That's a good storyline.
Yeah.
No, I like that. Cool. Sasha, we've come to you, so we've probably spoken a lot about maybe what you would do, but Sasha, how would you fix the MCU?
So with me, it's kind of like Fast and Furious. After those first 3 films, had different kind of results, because they went different ways with them. They went with Paul Walker. They skipped Vin Diesel because he was too expensive and he was a big star at the time. And they were like, we don't want to pay Vin his money. You know what I mean? Let's try it with Paul as the lead and Tyrese and and that didn't work too well. And then they tried something else a bit different. They were just like,
Tokyo Drift.
Let's go Tokyo, brand new cast. And that didn't work too well either. So then you got to Fast and Furious, and it was new model, original parts. And that's kind of the route I'd take it, to be honest. It's so what I mean by that, I'll go into it as I roll out the plan. But I do agree with Andreas. The MCU needs a shake-up. It does need. I wouldn't go as harsh and do a full reboot. That I don't like reboots. I hate reboots. I hate seeing the same shit done a little differently. It drives me fucking insane.
Yes, I'm not talking about sort of redoing the Iron Man story.
No, dude.
Right?
I'm just saying, me personally, like reboots in general. I'm not shitting on your idea, by the way. I'm just saying.
I just wanted to clarify. I didn't want to redo.
No, that's cool.
What's been done.
That's cool.
Just a new thing.
Something different.
Yeah. So basically, with Deadpool, Brave New World, Echo, and Agatha Darkhold Diaries, whatever that is. Okay, they've been shot. They're in the can. They're officially in the can. The rest of these things are in, pre-production. They haven't shot anything. They haven't casted anything really. I mean that includes Thunderbolts. They haven't filmed anything of that. So, I mean the ones I've just mentioned, you can't stop the train. You can't. You could probably get a tax write-off of Agatha. So
Dude, Warner Brothers stops all the trains. So if Marvel wanted to ban something, they could.
Yeah. I'm just saying. Well, Marvel did with Daredevil. He was like, no.
Yeah.
No,
can it? Yeah.
Can it? So that being said, those four things: Deadpool, Brave New World, Echo, Agatha. Let them run the course. Let them run the course.
Okay.
Let them come out. Then 3 years later, yes, 3, not 1 year, not 2 years, 3 years. Break. No Marvel content. Nothing. Okay. If there's X-Men the animated series still going on, fine. Let us have the animation stuff.
Animated series are fine. Yeah.
Yeah, animated series is fine. Movies, TV shows, nothing. 3 years of deadness. 3 years of different kinds of films. 3 years of, you know what I mean? Like,
make
chill.
the people miss your product.
Yes, exactly. I'm a big Iron Man fan. I love RDJ in the role. I would pay that man ornaments, $1 gajillion to come back. Okay, to come back. But here's the thing. I don't like him coming back after Endgame. He's dead. Leave him dead. I do Iron Man Returns set in the phase 3. But I don't address that. I give people a good movie. And how I do that, I bring Favreau back. With the intention of, like, your original plan with Iron Man 1, do that. He did Iron Man 1. He wanted to do a trilogy. And he fell out with Marvel over number 2 because, he had to compromise on this Avengers shit being forced down his throat. The mandate wasn't set, An individual film where it's like we reset Iron Man for the audience. You know what I mean? Where it's like, this is Iron Man. Kind of like a good sequel. You know what I mean? I just want a good sequel. And the reason why I picked Phase 3, and this is before Endgame, this is before Infinity War, where it sets probably in that realm just after Homecoming, maybe, kind of thing.
Yeah, after Civil War Homecoming, yeah.
Yeah, just around that kind of era. And you just have an Iron Man film with an Iron Man standard villain from the comics. There are many, you know what I mean, that people want to see and whatnot, and just do a good movie. And the only thing to do with the end credit, the only thing would be to go. He hated it. He's like, I'm out.
He's like, Andreas has left the building.
Andreas has left. He's like, I can't believe you went. I thought you were with me. No. But the only thing that I'm giving the audience is that Tony Stark. Okay, the original idea with Iron Man was we build up the Mandarin because he never fought his big bad, and that's my focus with these Iron Man films. We have an Iron Man trilogy where we build up the Mandarin like the Emperor from Star Wars, and in that final film, he goes toe-to-toe with Andy Lau. And these are... But do I set it in Phase 3? When was Iron Man 3? Was that Phase 2?
So Iron Man 3 was Phase 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
The first film of Phase 2.
So the first film, Iron Man Returns, is actually set before Ultron.
Okay, so before Ultron in Phase 2.
It's set before Ultron. And this is going a bit ahead of my plan because I haven't gone into when I'd release Iron Man 5. But Iron Man 5 would be set during Phase 3, mainly towards the start of Phase 3 kind of thing. First couple of movies in Phase 3. And then Iron Man 6, the final one where he fights the Mandarin, would be in what's it? I haven't decided on that. It'll either be before Endgame or maybe during the blip, maybe before
between Infinity War and Endgame. Yeah,
maybe, because I'd like to end the franchise with him and Pepper getting married, end it on a high. He beats the Mandarin, they get married. It's a complete trilogy of films that stand alone in themselves, and you know what I mean. Like that would be the vision there with those 3 films, kind of thing, and it's more him focused. Yeah, you'll have cameos and stuff from like, but they won't be stuff where it's like over. It has to either serve the story or whatnot. One thing I would introduce there, if I was future thinking for stuff to come, I would use that to introduce X-Men. I would use that to introduce a Professor X cameo, and I'll bring the movie where I will bring Professor X in a bit later in my thing. But that's what I do with the Iron Man thing. Okay. So you have that Iron Man Returns as the first foundation kind of thing. There's stuff to work with those films where you can make it more character focus and less the big universe focus, if that makes sense.
So an Iron Man trilogy, but all set before Infinity War. Or before
all set before Infinity War.
Set
around Phase 2 and Phase 3. Focused on him. And the only nugget, like I said, is stuff that's coming later on down the line, kind of thing. If you want to implement X-Men, you can, but it has to serve story. It cannot be, hey, you know what I mean? It can't be because. But anyway, that would be my first chess move with that one movie, okay, or trilogy, but that one movie. Now back to Neil's. Neil was spot on the dollar. Free things a year, kind of thing. 3 things a year. And my second thing is the Invincible Hulk. I do an Incredible Hulk movie set in phase 2. Literally in phase 2. And it's just really just Hulk smashing the Hulk we love with Ruffalo and carrying on that concept with him, with whoever the new general is, Harrison Ford, whoever it is now, and Betty Ross kind of thing. We bring in Rick. Where was Rick from day one? Rick, his boy. We bring in Rick. I know which other. We go in on that promise with fucking Stearns at the end of Incredible Hulk. We bring that guy. We bring the leader as the villain, and make it again kind of a standalone. Maybe have an Iron Man connection. Maybe throw in a Stark cameo. But because it's the second film out the bag, people will be like, there'll be certain references to when it is set in the MCU. But what we're showing people are standalone movies of these characters, if that makes sense. When you go into it, people are like, okay, right, that's a standalone movie. But more importantly, it's a good movie, not some bullshit and then this shit. And then, the rest of it's for people to figure out. You know what I mean? The last one of the year is Spider-Man. You make all efforts to do a fucking sequel to that last film, man. All right, because that was Spider-Man on the high. But more importantly, because that was so fantastical, we go back to the ground. Maybe the villain could be Scorpion, as he was teased in the first Holland film.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? We go back, we visit someone like that, someone we've never seen before, really. And, we've now got J. Jonah Jameson now. Perfect villain for that kind of story, Utilize, everyone loves fucking JK, That's who I'd have as my Spider-Man villain.
J.K. Simmons. What? Yeah, absolutely.
The thing is with Spider-Man, though, the beauty of Spider-Man is I'm not transfixed with that one thing. There are multiple things they could go through with that. But again, there's 3 films where we're focused on character and just one thing. And because, maybe you could have a Spider-Man cameo in Iron Man Returns, because obviously has he showed up yet? No, Civil War hasn't happened. So no, he can't. He can't. But this Spider-Man film, make it standalone, but it's set forward in the future. Tony's dead, whatsoever. As long as you make it standalone.
Yeah, you can have, like I say, Kingpin, Scorpion, Tombstone, bring it down.
Yeah. We're not doing pollination just yet, but we're hitting on stuff for the future kind of thing. We could do stuff that would happen in one movie, and then you see the future event in another, if that makes sense.
Could introduce Eddie Brock.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Back to the Hulk thing. Because it's post Avengers, he's seen a psychologist. He's seen a psychiatrist. Who's a psychiatrist in the Ultimate Comics? It's Professor X. It's Professor Xavier, and that's when we get our first thing in the X-Men kind of thing. We introduce the X-Men. Hell, you know who the villain could be in Invincible Hulk? You could have Wolverine. Because that's what people want to see, that are Hulk fans, but then after that, the next year, the following 3 projects are Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four. I want it done properly. I'm sorry. I will go with the straight reboot. But obviously, a retelling of sorts. I wouldn't have it be Doom be the bad guy yet again. I would have Doom in it. I like the original film where he went up to the space station with them, and then he I'd have him disappear, and then I'd probably have Mole Man or whoever else be the villain, puppet master or whatnot. I know that sounds a bit more lower budget, but maybe that's what that IP needs. Maybe it doesn't need to be a $200 million movie. Maybe it only needs to be a $100 million movie, so that we can concentrate on story, screenplay, make it good. More importantly, they're a family, and
Yeah.
it's about
That's
family
the story, the
drama.
family.
It's a family dynamic.
And I would much rather concentrate on character than spectacle. You have Doom go up there with
Agreed.
them, and then he's gone for that one for the rest of the movie. You introduce the next big bad or the upcoming big bad that's been there. And that's kind of how it is in the original comics, because they don't fight Doom. Doom doesn't go with them, but they don't fight Doom first, do they, Neil? They fight Mole
No, they
Man.
fight Mole Man. Mole Man is the very first villain that they fight.
He is the
when
very
they
first
ride
villain,
the
man.
land. And it's Mole Man. Is Mole Man?
And he's never been done before. He's never been done before.
Yeah.
And the second villain is Puppet Master. So it's like, you know, I would stay true with that one, to be honest, because it's never been stayed true to. And with Doom, Doom is the reoccurring guy that comes back. You know, he's the reoccurring guy that comes back. And you know what? I would do the start of Fantastic Four well before. I would do it probably around the same time as Iron Man Returns. And that way you could have a cameo with Reed Richards in the films before the Negative Zone. Now, in terms of where they were during Endgame, that's the beauty of space. The bitches are in space on their travels. You know, they're literally on their travels, because when they're in space, we don't know how long they were up there. You know what I mean? You could even probably do something that when they come back, it's years, you know, it's years later past the blip. And maybe
Doom have them dusted.
Yeah, maybe, or maybe Doom got blipped, and when he reforms, he's still in the negative zone. And when he gets out, you know what I mean, he comes to Earth and he's pissed. You know what I mean?
The blip was across the universe. So
and that could be something for a sequel or something later on down the line in the MCU. But that would explain where they've been the whole time. You know what I mean? I would literally have it like that. But yeah.
Well, can I interject ever so slightly?
Yeah, sure. Go nuts.
One thing that people seem to always forget about Doom, and it's the reason Doom is my favorite villain in all of comics, right? He's a fucking world leader.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He has fucking, what's it? Diplomatic immunity, right? He does what he wants.
Would you have him be the world leader before he goes up there, or would you have that be something that
I wouldn't even have his powers connected to the Fantastic Four. I would say that he is Doom. He's Doom as he is. He's Tony Stark of magic. He is one of the smartest men in the world, but he focused on magic. I would have that, because at the end of the day, by having that, you've got someone who their power levels are going to work differently with each other. I mean, obviously, yes, Tony Stark isn't around anymore, but their power levels are going to work differently with each other because he deals with magic, and that leads into things like Agatha. That leads into things like
so you could have Agatha open a portal which allows him into this universe.
Yeah, but I mean, what Sasha said was one of the most beautiful ideas I've ever heard. You have Doom dusted. Imagine what happens when Dr. Doom, just what you know of Dr. Doom.
Yeah.
Imagine him reappearing in his throne room and seeing like some regular wooden desk with a couple of extra chairs there, and he's like, "What the fuck is this?" And then there's some guy who's supposed to be the president of Latveria walks in, and he's like, What are you doing here? I was like, bruv, the next scene is going to be Doom pushing open them doors, and you just see smoke trails of where that guy used to be standing.
Could you have him like Wakanda, where no one really went there, touched it, knew it existed, and it was kind of a secret country which he ruled, and that's why we haven't heard of him until now? Because otherwise, how did you explain where Doom's been before the blip?
Country? Yeah, exactly like Wakanda. It's a closed country, people don't really go in or out of there. But they've got no natural resource, so nobody ever kept an eye on them.
Yeah.
So Doom is just doing his thing.
Well, anyway, that was a side quest. So, but yeah, in the Spider-Man film, I would have a Daredevil. I'd have a Daredevil linkage that goes into the next project, Daredevil Borns Again. Okay, Marvel, make it R-rated, keep it in its own contained thing. The reason why you have a cameo with Spider-Man is because he's street level. You know what I mean? That's about as far as the cameos go there. Just let Daredevil do his thing in R-rated glory, and just fucking make it season 4 of the Netflix show. Like somehow, I don't know. Like I just feel that those shows were that good. Well, that show was that good, but or just do a recent to have it a few years later after that Netflix show, or you know what I mean, like reference it, but you don't have to go into it, so it can still be its own standalone kind of thing.
I think that's what it is. It's going to be. I pretty much think it's going to be pretty much the same versions, but they just got rid of the rest of the cast.
Totally. Because he doesn't need Foggy. He doesn't need Karen either.
No.
Well, he does,
No,
but I mean, he does need those characters. But there are times in Daredevil where he does go solo, and maybe those characters could reappear later on down the line and be reintroduced in a different way. I mean, Karen becomes a huge drug addict, and she fucking dies.
AIDS.
A terrible death.
She's a drug addict. She becomes a prostitute. She gets AIDS, and then she dies.
Yeah.
Sorry to interject. I need to dash.
Yeah. Oh, okay. It's been going on quite a while, I have to say.
I got to wake up at 5 a.m.
Ooh, dude.
I've got clients in the morning.
Okay, so any final thoughts from you, Andreas, before we go? So,
final thoughts. I think every one of our opinions has got this intersecting. Like, even though we all come from different sort of areas, we've all got a bit that overlaps, and we kind of agree on. I think the most important takeaway is that, you know, things have got quite bad, and the audience is bailing on them, and whichever way they go, something drastic needs to happen, and it's going to be really interesting to see which way they go and which of the way they go aligns with all our different
isn't it interesting? 5 people here, and we all want something different.
Yeah.
I just want creative control.
It's my podcast.
Give it to me.
I just think that I think you know, everyone's become more educated in the comic book world with the release of these films. A lot of people read up on it. They get invested more into the characters, and that, you know, everybody's now, they have their favorite characters. They have their own wants. They all want something slightly different. And I think our expectations aren't being met. I think our expectations are actually probably too high, and that's impacting it as well. I'm not saying it's the main reason. I'm saying it's probably part of the reason that our expectations, because of what we've had previously, everything feels short now, and it's just becoming really frustrating. But anyway, Andreas, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Catch you later, Andreas.
Peace,
take it easy.
Just so I know, do I just exit and leave my browser open
So I'll just put a pause in the podcast here. I'll cut it out. So basically, what I'll need you to do is just mute your camera and your mic. So turn off your camera and mic and leave it here, because basically when I hit end recording, everyone's uploads will finish uploading.
Cool.
So then eventually you'll see a bar that comes up that says this is how much percentage has been loaded. At that point, then you close this window down. Other than that, if you can leave it open, it'll load.
I'm going to leave it overnight. But I mean, I know it's paused. I'm just going to say thank you. It's been really nice to actually get away from everything that I do on my everyday grind. And
actually, it's been a pleasure, man. We hope we can have some more of you in the future. So when your diary opens up, let us know.
All right, guys. Thanks,
care. Andreas. Take care.
Okay, mate.
Peace, bro.
Bye.
Cool. All right. So, Sasha, Daredevil, R-rated. Now where are we going?
Next up is Marvel. The last thing of the year is Marvel's X-Men.
Okay.
So I said I wanted Patrick Stewart to show up as Hulk's thing and whatnot. Maybe Spider-Man, we get somebody else. Maybe Iron Man, we get somebody else. And maybe in Hulk, we have Wolverine as well. You know, so we have that fighting thing. And it will be Hugh Jackman. Okay? Just putting it out there. It will be Hugh Jackman. It won't be no recast. It'll be Hugh Jackman.
Okay.
Marvel's X-Men, because I've made everything quite contained so far. Don't worry, guys. You'll get your mad cross-pollination later. Okay? All right. There will be little things that will hint at stuff. Like, I think in terms of modern day MCU, from the plan I've laid so far, it's Spider-Man and Fan 4 and Daredevil. Okay. They're moving the story forwards. With Iron Man and Hulk, it's more of you know, more of a
it's a throwback. Yeah,
a throwback, but also kind of like connect the dots with certain stuff and maybe implement stuff that we can go, holy shit, that's linking to this later on. You know what I mean? What that is later on, I don't know. You know what I mean? But you know, well, that more educated people could figure that one out. But X-Men, you get Fassbender, you get McAvoy, you bring them together, you set it in the 80s. We explore the MCU in the 80s. Hopefully Deadpool will fuck off Apocalypse and fuck off that fucking Dark Phoenix trash. Okay. The jump off point is Days of Future Past. Okay. Set in the 80s. We have our Sentinels looking like the fucking Sentinels from the comics. And we go balls to the walls with a brand new cast of X-Men playing the younger versions. We have our Cyclops. We have our Jean Grey. We have our... we'll keep Young Beast as the guy that was Young Beast. I forget his name. We'll keep
Nicholas Hoult.
Yeah, we'll keep Nicholas Hoult as Beast, but we don't need to show how he became Beast and stuff. He's just Beast. You know what I mean? Doing his thing. And we have... Who else? Who else was the first X-Men? Angel and... yeah.
Angel,
whoever... Huh?
You mean in the comics or in the film?
In the original comics, I think he means.
Yeah. Oh, it was Angel, Jean Grey, Iceman.
Okay, we won't have Iceman because that'll fuck shit up. Because I want Iceman in my MCU, you know, like with everybody else, kind of thing. And maybe further on down the line, if people want X-Men versus Avengers film, that's when we bring the OG cast back. You know what I mean? For that, because that's set in the future. But I'm not saying to do that anytime soon. That's like something way in the future. But that'll be my Marvel's X-Men. Who the villain could be? Someone new, maybe Sinister. I always like Sinister. And it'd also be kind of like cool because that's what Fox kind of teased. But because we've done away with Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix, we can introduce Sinister in a brand new way. I don't know what that briefcase and that strange secret agent was for, because that made no sense to me. But, you know, we can just fuck it. Sinister. We're getting Sinister. There we go. All right. The following year, this is the last year, okay? Thunderbolts. I put it there because they put it on the slate. Because we have Spider-Man, in that Spider-Man film, I would have introduced Norman Osborn. Okay? Not as a bad guy, though. As a good guy. As a guy that has probably taken over S.H.I.E.L.D. Okay? Like he does later on in the comics at some point. And he's a billionaire. You know, he's a billionaire. He's done his thing, his Oscorp and stuff, but he's working for S.H.I.E.L.D. now. He's the new director. He's doing the Thunderbolts program. You'd probably have like Oscorp stuff in Daredevil as a reference kind of thing. And he's leading up the Thunderbolts. And along with Harrison Ford's guy.
Ross.
What's his face?
Ross.
And we give ourselves a Thunderbolts movie as something new and something new to people that don't know what the Thunderbolts are. And I like the Thunderbolts, but yeah, it is Suicide Squad, I guess. But you know, it was a cool comic, I felt. And because it's on the slate existing already, that's the only thing I'd change about Thunderbolts, because I know currently they didn't have plans to bring back William Dafoe as the guy, because I would bring him back straight up. There's only one guy. Why change a good thing? He's still in fighting fit shape, and you know, he's still age appropriate for those movies. So yeah. And yeah, my second film is Blade. I don't know what I'd do with Blade yet, because I'd probably recast.
Tough character.
Well, not even tough character. I know this. I wouldn't have it be a $2 million movie. It'd be $100 million. It'd be low budget because it's a kung fu movie with vampires. That shouldn't cost that much. It shouldn't be a $200 million movie. Know your brain. And I hear that they've slashed the budget to $100 million anyway. Do I care about Mahershala Ali being Blade? Well, it was a good pick at the time.
No, he wasn't.
Yeah.
let's cut the bullshit, right? There is two sides to you, such. There is the filmmaker, film lover side, and then there is the comic book lover, comic book fan side. Right?
There is.
And
There
we
is.
both know, right?
Yeah.
Picking up comic,
hear me out.
Like you being, he's he's an Oscar winner and he's tremendous actor. And I'm like, look at him as a man. Just looking at him as a man. I'm sorry, if I don't care how bad this sounds, right? I am not the prime existence of a man, but if I look at you and I think, you know what? Unless you knew every kind of martial arts there was, you ain't beating me in a fight.
Yeah.
You ain't playing. right? If I look at you and I think, if I get my arms around your waist, you're going for Suplex City. You're going for a trip around the sun, sir.
Yeah.
You can't be Blade. I look at Michael Jai White, I look at freaking Wesley Snipes, and I ain't messing with them.
Anyway, I digress.
Yeah,
okay.
Sorry.
Look. He was fine for when they announced him. Now, not so much, and he's not a martial artist, so I'm still not convinced. I think here's the thing: you either do this, which would make a lot of martial arts fans happy and a lot of Blade fans happy. You bring back Wesley, and we crack on. Now, that may not be to certain people's cup of tea. But I don't give a fuck about certain people's cup of tea because we're not spending $200 million on this motherfucker. We're spending $100 million, so I can cost you the fuck I want. And I want Blades 1 and 2 part of the MCU and have it be a continuation. And vampires have been underground, just like those first two films suggested. They're not well known. Blade is the MCU's introduction to that. But at the same time, I do see the appeal of recasting because Wesley Snipes ain't exactly that young anymore. And as much as I love Blade 1 and 2, and as much as I really love Blade 1 and 2, there's still Blade Trinity, and that sucks fucking balls. So, so I'm kind of 50-50 on that, but I do acknowledge it needs to be low budget. But if you were to cast a young guy, okay, I'm casting someone that is 28, acting older, because I believe Blade should be in his 30s personally. So I'd cast a young guy, and he's my Blade for 5 movies. All right, because kung fu movies are quick to make. So you know what I mean. Like I'm franchising that shit out like hardcore, and me and Neil will direct and write the motherfucker. That's that. Right, there we go. I'm saying it out straight up, Blade. No, fuck it. You know what? Yeah, that's it. And that's with or without Wesley. All right. We'll listen to him.
I mean, Wesley, he's 61 now, and that movie was 25 years old.
If he gets too cray, then we'll ditch him, innit? So, but what was I going to say? That's basically how I feel about Blade. How does it connect? Who knows? Does it need to connect? You know what I mean? Like newspaper. Someone's reading the newspaper. There we go. There's the connection. I don't really care for connections at this point. We need good movies, not shit ones. So, I know there's been a bit of interconnectivity with some of the stuff I've said, but do you know what I mean? I'm really trying to make them story focused and stuff. The last movie is Iron Man 5 because it's been like 2 years. So, you know what I mean? We need the Iron Man 5, and that continues my story with the Mandarin and whatnot. Maybe you could link the Mandarin to Blade because there's Kung Fu. Maybe you could link the Kung Fu-ness with Daredevil, with the hand. It's there. You know what I mean? It's in the comics. That could be the interconnection tissue there with these first couple of films for the first 3 years of Marvel. The next thing we introduce is the last thing on my list is the Avengers. We stick to the plan. Hopefully my man's innocent, and maybe we could go with Kang and stick to that plan and then go nuts. But if he's guilty, well, I guess we're going straight to Beyonder. So I don't know, man. That's what I do. It's something crazy.
There's a lot to unpack there because what you're trying to do is go back and fill in movies with Iron Man and Hulk, plus progress with the new movies and the series, whilst only releasing 3 a year.
Yeah.
But then you've got the X-Men in the 1980s. How do the X-Men get into the next Avengers movies? How do you bring them from the 80s to the new date with a younger
that's
cast?
where you get that's where you get the old cast back.
So what happens to the new cast? The new cast is just younger versions of the older cast?
Yeah.
So not only have you recast them once younger, you're recasting them a second time younger.
What are you on about? Recasting them younger?
Because they end up being the older versions from like Days of Future Past, right? So they end up becoming the older versions.
Yeah, as in like Hank McCoy is Fraser Crane. Yeah. In the future,
and he's Nicholas Hoult.
Who they would
Yeah.
be. But in the 80s, they'd be McAvoy.
Yeah. But I'm saying
So
you
for
wanted
the
to
X-Men
recast. But I'm saying you wanted to recast everyone.
Yeah, but just for the
certain
X-Men
characters. Right.
Just for the X-Men movies.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I say you keep your Fassbender and your McAvoy being your two heads for the past, and then you just recast Cyclops and Storm and that lot. I wouldn't have Wolverine being my, and I wouldn't have Wolverine being my X-Men. I would never have Wolverine.
No,
in
I
my
get
X-Men.
that. I get that.
Yeah.
But what I'm struggling with the X-Men is you're saying it in the 80s, the same as obviously the last couple of movies were. But you're saying, right, those two didn't happen. But the Days of Future Past did happen. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying Days of Future Past, you're saying Days of Future Past did happen, but we're going to recast some of those younger people but those younger recasts still end up being the same older versions from the original movies. But the original movies are set way before the MCU, obviously, timeline it is now.
Okay,
so
you've
by
confused.
the time you end up getting to
No, I think I get what you're saying, right? Basically, the McAvoy X-Men movies are set in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s.
No. There's no 90s. They're gone. They're gone.
Well, no, but I'm just, in real life, in what really
Yeah.
exists, there are 4 films that is this in those 4 timelines, right? And what we're saying is your film, but so essentially it's the 2000 film would be X-Men 1.
Yes.
Right. So what you're saying is essentially all of those films take place prior to the MCU, which comes in 2008.
Potentially.
So,
but we don't know when those films were set because they were set in the not too distant future. They weren't set in 2000.
But what I'm saying is the problem that comes with them is they're saying that there's basically 10 years between X-Men Apocalypse and X-Men. So that would
no. X-Men
even though it
Apocalypse
says too distant future.
Oh yeah.
Even though
X-Men Apocalypse doesn't exist though. It doesn't exist though. I've wiped that.
Oh, you wiped that one out.
I've wiped that. That's what I said. I said, look, Days of Future Past is the last one I'm keeping. You know what I mean? Because that was Fox's own reset button. You got to understand that
point. So actually, so where you're coming from, actually, Jean Grey, Cyclops, they haven't actually been cast yet.
No.
Because it's from Days of Future Past. Right. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. I'm not taking Apocalypse. God, no. We can have our own Apocalypse. We can recast that motherfucker and have him all CG and shit and go balls to the walls nuts. Okay. I
get where you're going, but just to try and fit all that into the timeline, that's madness.
I'm not. It's not madness.
Where are the X-Men during Infinity War and Endgame? Where are mutants? Where is all this happened?
That's why you introduced them. That's why you introduced cameos in Invincible Hulk, which is in Phase 2.
But it doesn't matter because they're throwaway cameos because they don't feed into Endgame or Infinity War. They don't. That's your whole point. Your whole point is don't have cameos for the sake of cameos. You can't have them cameo in movies, retrofit cameos to then appear later because the Eternals. The Eternals happened and we just weren't here. We couldn't
you're right there, dude. This is creative control. This is my creative control.
I'm just saying I don't get it.
What's there not
I
to
can't
get?
see how it works.
I'm introduced to mutants way before like, you know, the future shit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm saying they've always been there. I mean, like, hell, mutants have been introduced into the MCU since Miss Marvel, and they haven't made out that it's a new thing or whatnot. They've just said, look, they're there. You know what I mean? You're a mutant, Miss Marvel. And you hear that, and it's like, oh, okay, you're a mutant. Professor Xavier rolls out in Doctor Strange. He's there. They don't explain where they are. You just say they're there. You know what I mean? You just say they're there. When you go into X-Men, you explain where they've been, what they've done, what they've seen, blah, blah, blah. Where were they during Infinity War and Endgame? Half of them got blipped. Most of them are in school. Some of them are in hiding. Who knows? You know what I mean? Like, you explain that in the movie.
All right. Cool.
Who's this guy? Who's this guy? Oh, he's Professor Xavier. How's he doing that shit? Oh, he's like one of those. He's a mutant. Oh, okay. What the fuck's a mutant? You know, and there you go. There's a conversation. You know, it's not that hard. It's not that rocket science. The whole point being is when you watch the MCU from a beginning point in an order, you'll be like, oh, okay, I get it now. But that's why, look, when we watch Star Wars these days, they're implementing all kinds of crazy shit. And we're just going with it. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just got to go with it. I mean, like, fuck. You had to watch the whole of fucking Star Wars Rebels to get that Ahsoka show. You know what I mean?
I just think you have to include something. It's very hard for an audience member for you to say, right, Days of Future Past is where it ends. Those other movies, forget about them. But you have to include all your other stuff, like your Blades and your other X-Men movies. It's very hard to pick and choose which movies you're saying.
They did it with fucking No Way Home. They did it with No Way Home, mate. They fucking just went bam with Toby, bam with him, and just said, go with it, man. These other
but all those movies exist. That's what they're saying. All those movies exist. They didn't say none of those movies exist. They embraced everything. So to what I'm saying is to embrace the Fassbender and stuff ones, but not then two of them. But
they're variants. They're variant timelines. They're variant timelines, isn't it?
Or you just blow up those movies in Deadpool 3.
No, it's another variant, isn't it? It's a variant, isn't it? Basically, the apocalypse.
Well, like he says, get Deadpool to kill off those timelines.
Yeah, there you go. You get Deadpool to kill off those timelines. He comes in, he goes, yo, this apocalypse guy, don't go there. You know what I mean? Like there we go. He's tidying up the timeline.
Yeah, be like, oh, there's a branch here. We need to snip that branch. Yeah.
Or you just get Owen Wilson. Owen Wilson just comes in. He just like,
yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah, wow. There we go. No, he doesn't do that. He doesn't do that. Not in the MCU. That's someone else. But yeah,
cool.
But no, that's what I would do with X-Men. X-Men would be a bit of a tidy up affair kind of thing. Because here's the thing, I like First Class. I like X-Men. I like X2. I've grown to tolerate X3. But that's only because of the very first, like, let's tidy up shit, which was Days of Future Past. That fixed shit. That fixed a lot of stuff for me. And then they went and messed up that Extra Life with Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix, man. So I would literally just go, yo, Days of Future Past. That's the point. Apocalypse never happened. That's why it's set. That's why my movies are set in the 80s, because then we can have this young cast. They can show off the 80s MCU. We can bring in Agent Carter. We can bring in young Agent Fury or whatever.
Hey, bring in Fury, bring in Captain Marvel. Yeah,
bring in Captain Marvel. No, she won't be about. She's the 90s. She's 1990s. She's not about yet. Maybe she's flying planes. I don't know. Yeah. Was she 99 or 95?
1990. She's like 94.
94. Yeah. So she's just flying planes, man. Maybe you can have her come in, de-aged and do something.
She could be test piloting their jet.
The jet, yeah. We've just got
secret government jet. Yeah, she's test piloting it for him. Okay. Thank you, Sash. That was good, man. So Sash has gone. He's gone back. He's implementing some stuff in phase 2 and phase 3. He's moving phase 5 forward, dropping some stuff, making some changes. Blade 5 films. Neil is like not cleaning the slate, but he's picking and choosing. Yes, I'm going to keep this. No, I'm not going to do this, and just move the MCU forward. I'm just like, yeah, let's throw everything at it now. Let's encompass everything that's happened, all the Fox stuff, all the Marvel stuff, throw everything in Secret Wars, and then kill it. Make that the end of it, and then have our new lineup moving forward. Pick and choose. A little bit what Neil says. I really like the fact that you can bring all the multiverses in together. Stop it. Pick and choose your favorite actors of every variant, and then just have them as it moving forward. I think that's the best thing to do. Lee just wants to enjoy some good movies because he's like, you guys are fucking crazy, and I don't know where I'm coming or going.
Yeah, I think just take it back to basics. I mean, that's how it started. Like, just want a good movie.
That's it. Bottom line is, we just need
good stories,
good writing, good stories, good movies. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, this was like the longest episode ever.
I told you it was Endgame.
I don't know where we go from here. I need to go back to like 10-minute episodes. So this, thank you very much for sticking with us. I mean, you probably haven't. You probably skipped huge chunks of this, but thank you very much for listening. We really appreciate you. If you're watching us on YouTube, please make sure you hit that like and subscribe, and make sure you share it to somebody else who's an MCU fan. If you're listening to us, please make sure you hit that follow on your favorite podcast platform. Make sure you share this episode again with any friends of comic books or the MCU. Tell us what you thought. Who's got it right? Who's got it wrong? What would you do with the MCU? How would you fix it? Which bits of our ideas do you like? Which bits would you pick and choose out of what we would do? Tell us in the comments. Neil, Sasha, Lee, anything else before we go? No, we're all good. Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys sticking with me for so long. I hope it's been enlightening for you as it has been for me. It's been a joy. And that's it. So until next time, peace out.
Peace.